Hey everyone, welcome back to me and my family. We were gone for 2 weeks in Japan. We did Tokyo, Kyoto, Hakone, Osaka, Koyasan, then back to Tokyo. And it was insane. And so what I want to do today is something different that I don't normally do on the channel, which is share this travel experience. Why? Well, for me, first of all, it was, and for the kids and for my wife, travel is transformative because it shatters your belief structure. Like maybe you've been in the US a long time or you've been where you are a long time and you just think this is how things are, this is how they should be, this is the best it can get. And then you go somewhere totally different and your entire worldview is blown. And Japan is kind of like that. In many ways, it's more advanced than we are in the US. Their public transport system, which we'll talk about, their food, which we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you images and videos and kind of go through and narrate it like an old man showing travel pictures. But hopefully this will have a point, which is looking also at the spiritual aspects of Japan, the sort of social aspects of it, where we stayed. And the idea being that maybe you'll get some desire to go there if you haven't been already. And if you have, because I don't know what I'm talking about, even though I was there for 2 weeks and we had a guide intermittently and, we did it through a travel agency. So it was very well structured. It was still complete chaos and I'm still learning. And so what I'd love it if you guys could do too is in the comments, if you've been to Japan, if you're Japanese, if you know something about this, leave a comment. And that also helps juice the YouTube algorithm so other people can see this video and hopefully get something out of it. Same as if you hit like, share it, or subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. It really helps a lot. So before so here's the disclaimer. We'll put time codes in so that you can jump to sections you're interested in, whether it's food in Kyoto, temples in Kyoto, hot springs in Hakone, I should say, in Gora, whether it's the bullet train, whatever it is, we'll have it sort of sketched out. I'm recording this kind of live and I'm switching cameras with my keyboard. I'm trying to play videos and feed things in and Zoom and show this to you in real time. So it'll get a little funky, but that's just how it is. It's the authentic experience of having an old man share his vacation slides with you, which was really kind of a working vacation, but beautiful. I cannot tell you how sad I was to come home, which tells you something about the experience of the trip. So without further ado, here we are. When we first arrived, it was a 11-hour flight from San Francisco to Tokyo. And here we are in our hotel, the Keio Plaza, which was the first hotel we stayed in. It's a high rise and you can see behind us. Here's Maya, my daughter. And what's cool about Apple Photos is I can then scroll down here and punch in to where we actually were. So here we are in the Shinjuku district where it's close to a major rail line. You can see the rail lines here. A lot of financial stuff, shopping, and then these parks, which we're going to show you a little bit of. And we can kind of zoom out and see that Tokyo itself is this massive area. It is not one city. It's actually a prefecture, kind of like a state in the US with multiple mini cities, and Shinjuku is one of them. And that's where we first stayed. We landed at Haneda Airport, which I forget exactly where it is. It's one of the newer airports. And it was about a 40-minute drive by taxi to our spot in Shinjuku. So that night, we were super jet lagged. And none of us could sleep. Even though the beds were super comfy, and they have these crazy showers where the shower is integrated with the tub in one room. And one of the things in Japan that you notice right away coming from California is that water scarcity is not a thing. So the water pressure there, it's like a river is dumped on you at any given moment, and you just fill the tub up instantly, and you're showering in like Niagara Falls, basically. And it's funny, when we came back to the US and we took a shower in our shower, which we used to think was kind of dope, it feels like you're being misted lightly. So that was the first sort of big culture shock. The jet lag is another because it's basically, I think, 14 hours ahead and you lose a day. Like it's the next day because you cross the international date line or some voodoo that I don't understand. And so we were up at the crack of dawn. So here is the scene out of our hotel window. The kids had a room and we had a room because I ain't sleeping with my kids. I worked way too many years as a doctor and saved enough money that I don't have to sleep 4 people in a bed anymore like we used to. So here is why they call Japan Land of the Rising Sun. It's so far east that even it has its own time zone, Japan time, that's the whole entire country. But Tokyo's far east even in Japan, so the sun rises at like 4 something. And here we are looking at the sun rising, and you can actually see these, if this was a live photo, let me see if it's going to play it as a live. Darn it! Sometimes you got to quit and come back in to get it to do that. Hang on. Where's my Photos app? Here we go. And make it big. Photos is very glitchy. There we go. So you can kind of see like where we are. So we're up at the crack of dawn. It's just this stunning view. And my wife and I started walking. This was probably, I don't know, when was this? This would have been 5 a.m. something. And we're walking through Shinjuku. And you can kind of see, just even in the morning, the city is so dynamic. But there's not a lot of cars. There's just taxis. And that's another thing that Japan does very differently than the US. The per capita cars are so low in Japan because most people are riding the public transport or walking. We would walk an average of like 5 to 11 miles a day and take the rails everywhere, or a taxi or something like that. And so we never really needed a car or anything like that. And it's true of most Japanese. So there's very little pollution, there's very little smog, and you don't see cars parked on the street. They're parked in these garages where they're stacked vertically. So it's expensive and hard to have a car in Japan, and it shows in the cities and how they're designed. They're very walkable, these big, wide intersections here where humans walk, and no cars parked on the street. It was absolutely glorious. Now, this was interesting because we came back to our room, and because they're high rises, we just happened to catch something kind of funky. Check this out. There's a dude out the window. So there were dudes cleaning the windows, and we caught it as they were coming down. Wow. What a job. That's cool. That is a cool job to have, and also terrifying. So the fascinating thing about that is the Japanese are out there living and working in the worst month of the year for travel, actually, which is July when we came. It's about 99 degrees with 100% humidity. So most of Japan swelters in the summer with humidity and heat. And so people often go to the north, like Hokkaido, different island, where it's cooler. But of course, we decided, hey, this will probably keep the crowds down. And generally it did. But the Japanese continue to dress like most Americans and tourists are showing up in shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops. Japanese don't do that. They're like in long pants, long shirts. The women are kind of dressed up. Like it's a formal society, even in 100 degrees with 100% humidity. So the first thing we did was the next day is we had a guide who took us around, and this was called the Meiji Shrine. It's one of the more famous shrines in Tokyo and in Japan, actually. And you can see it's kind of located in a big green area. So what's really fascinating about Tokyo is you have all this urban space, and then you have these green areas with shrines, and it's all integrated right into the fabric of the whole thing. So here we are at the Meiji Shrine, and usually when you see these, so there's 2 major religions in Japan, and I'm butchering this, and if I am, you guys help me out in the comments. Shintoism, which was there, or Shinto, the Shinto religion, which was there before Buddhism came from China, and then Buddhism, and there's kind of 3 main sects of Buddhism, and then Shinto. And what's interesting is the Japanese don't really distinguish as much between these religions. They're very fluid. So there's a saying in Japan that you're born Shinto, you get married Christian, because they'll often have these big Christian weddings with the white gown. In fact, we saw that in one of our hotels, beautiful bride with the big white Western gown and the man in the tuxedo and all that, and the bridesmaids and everything, very Western. And then you die Buddhist. Often in the Buddhist temples is where the funerals are and the ceremonies and things like that, and this kind of re-embracing the empty nature of reality. And it's really gorgeous how it's all so fluid and seamless. So back to this, when you kind of see a symbol like this is a Shinto shrine. And on one side is the sort of human world, and on the other side is the spirit world. And when you think of Shinto, you're really thinking about movies like Spirited Away, where she enters the spirit world. That's a Shinto kind of tradition where there are spirits. When people die, they become spirits. They have these areas where they are. There are sort of these gods and spirits and guardians of the shrine and that sort of thing. So that's where we are here, is entering this Meiji Shrine. Now, the Buddhist and Shinto imagery is often conflated. So you'll often see Buddhist imagery and Shinto imagery in the same areas. So here's the other side of that gate. Now we're in the spirit world. And what's interesting is you can feel it. Like, take a look at my eyes. Like, I was feeling that energy. And look, whether it's a placebo or whether it's energy, pretty much everything is energy. And the minute you cross here, you get a sense that you're in a different place. And even the animals kind of show it. This was a butterfly that started fluttering around our heads as we entered the shrine. And it was just this beautiful animal, and it allowed us to take pictures. We could get really, hang on, let me see if I can do this, really close to it.
Pictures, you're gonna...
And it seemed very comfortable. And just look at this beautiful insect. And so the whole energy in this place is very different. Now, I'll say this, like, throughout Japan, you'll see me come back to this idea of these energetic hotspots, almost like Wi-Fi hotspots, where there are cicadas chirping and there are these insects that make these noises, and you just feel like you're in a focus, an energetic focus, and you can understand intuitively why there's a shrine there. And really, does this make any scientific sense? Not really. Does it make sense when you're there? 100%. Can I explain it? No. It's a deep intuition of the energetics of a space. And we know what, when humans have intuition, we know what that is. It's kind of like that. So after the shrine, and I'm not showing you all the pictures we took, and a lot of times we would just stop taking pictures because just the energy was you just wanted to be present with it. And it felt like taking a picture was a kind of sacrilege. And so a lot of the best stuff we didn't really shoot, but I can tell you about it as we go through as best we can. Now, speaking of best, food. So our guide took us to this restaurant. Let's see if it has a name here, not on this one. And this is where we learned about how superior the Japanese eating culture is to our own. So first of all, I got to say this, as far as affordability goes, because there are 140 yen roughly now to the dollar, and typically 100 yen is about $1. So that when the Japanese see 100 yen, they're feeling $1. Now it's 140 yen to the dollar. So you're getting everything for 40% off. We would have these amazing meals, and they would cost something between $50 and $100 US for the big fancy meals. And there's no tipping in Japan, typically. So tip and tax are included there in the final price that I'm quoting you. Now, these kind of meals in the US, now, albeit I live in the San Francisco Bay Area where everything's expensive, these would be $200 and $300 plus tip, plus alcohol, all that. Here, drinks, everything included, $50 to $100. Remarkable. So where most of your spend goes when you go to Japan is on accommodations, because land is expensive and the hotels are very expensive and they charge you per person. And transport, everything, and airfare and that kind of thing. Everything else is remarkably affordable. And it didn't used to be that way. It just so happens the exchange rate's really good right now. Japanese economy weak relative to the US, et cetera. So that may not last, but we took advantage of it. So speaking of taking advantage, look at this food. So this meal, and you're sitting, you always take your shoes off, you come in, there's a place to put your shoes, they give you slippers for going to the bathroom. You sit down Japanese style and have just the best food you've ever had. Here's a chicken karaage, it's a fried chicken, and with a crazy sauce on it with spinach and some kind of mayonnaise mixed in. These are okra, and unlike you may have had bad okra in the US maybe, or maybe you've had good okra. This was not slimy at all. It was crispy, really flavorful. This is a kind of these are raw whitefish. This is an egg yolk that's raw. Seaweed in a dashi. It's like a fish broth that's slightly salty, slightly sweet. And you put it over rice, which I'll show you in a second. And here's the rice that you pour it over. This is a fish. I forget what kind of fish it was. It was a white fish, seared and grilled. So delicious. This is tamago, a kind of egg omelet. And this is a white radish that's very bland that you eat with all this. And there's the okra again. Here's that chicken karage. Now, here's a video of my kids checking this stuff out. So check this out.
That's awesome thing. It's always normal. Dude, I do need to drink water. I thought I was drinking a lot of water.
They were initially cautious, and then they were like, this is the best food we've ever had.
Actually scrumptious.
Dude, this looks delicious.
Ooh, what's in here? Is this miso?
Open it. What?
Yum.
So freaking good, you guys. So the kids were completely brainwashed into the Japanese way of eating, which is fresh, locally produced food, a lot of fish. And we'll show you the breakfast in a second. Breakfast is totally transformed. It's completely different. And what was interesting is the very first night we had some of this food and then we went to bed, all of us were like, ugh, what happened to us? Like all of our tummy tums were upset a little bit and we couldn't put our finger on what it was. Like nobody was nauseous or anything. It was just like, what is this? It was just a feeling of upsettedness and a kind of not sleeping very well and that kind of thing. And the next day we felt great. And what my speculation is, and you guys can come at me in the comments with this, my speculation is that your microbiome is culture shocked by this food that's so fresh and whole and unprocessed. And it has its own bacteria and microbiome that are introduced because there's a lot of pickled and cultured products. And you just go through this period of like, whoa, and then you're like, how did we not live like this forever? And you're walking so much, you're eating all this great food, you don't even gain weight. Like you may gain a couple pounds of water weight because the sodium content's quite high and that then adjusts. But the transition from the standard Western diet, standard American diet or SAD to the Japanese diet is so, it's like, oh, and then you can't believe that we eat the way we do in the US. And my kids were saying the same thing. And they're the most incentivized because to like the American diet because it's sugary, they eat cereal, they have fast food, when we came back, we were so disappointed walking through, Safeway or Whole Foods. And then we went to the Japanese grocery store and we're like, this is more like it. So that's another advantage of traveling is you see different ways to live, to eat, and you see, maybe I'm doing it wrong. So here was my meal. So I decided for a different approach, these little small dishes. This is octopus or taco, T-A-K-O. It was really delicious in a vinegary type of briny thing. This is a tempura vegetable. This was some kind of pickled, I don't remember what this was actually. This is tofu, like an agadashi tofu, and it's cold and really chewy and delicious in a kind of a broth. This was a salad with fish on it, with beef on it. That was really delicious. Cucumber, and look at this. These are little bitty fish, and they were so delicious. You can see them here. Really, really good. More pickled vegetables. And this is a soft homemade style tofu with a sauce on top with little onions, and it had the consistency of kind of like a thick yogurt, really good. This is unagi or eel, saltwater eel actually in this case, with over cucumbers, really, really good. It's sweet, delicious. Now this, I gotta say a word about the beef and chicken and meat in Japan. It's all raised kind of locally and it's so good. So you've heard about Wagyu beef or Kobe beef, and then you have it and it is this dense, marbled, fatty beef that you can tell that cow was pampered. Not tortured in a factory farm. It was pampered. And it is just amazing. So this beef, Boy, I hope this is recording. I've never done this kind of thing before. I'm using some new software, but if not, you'll never see it. This beef was unbelievable. And again, this was that egg with the fish that you put over the rice, which we figured out after a minute how to do it. And by the way, this is fresh wasabi. So it's freshly ground. It's not that powdered stuff you get in the US. It is so good, really spicy, really kind of bright tasting and fresh. And again, the Japanese pickles are a staple of everything. And I think they have, a lot of bacteria and stuff that really kind of shift how your microbiome feels. It just feels different. And they're delicious. They take a little getting used to. Here's that beef. Oh my God. Look at the marbling on it. Unbelievable. There's that again. And there's my wife, Margaret, enjoying it. So good. Oh my God. We were beside ourselves in this place. Now, as you walk in here, I have other pictures that I won't show you of like where the bathrooms are and how it's all set up. You're sitting on the ground, cross-legged. It's really a cool, different way to eat, and really, really cool. So after we did that, our kids were really interested in Japanese stationery stores because they're legendary. And so we went to Ginza, which is the big shopping district, and our guide took us to an 8-story famous stationery store. And here it is. You can kind of see how it's set up. It's long and narrow and vertically oriented. So look at all the crazy pens. Like my kids were in heaven because they just love pens and stationery and stuff. And they just went nuts. And I'm trying to see if this was, yeah, here we are. So it doesn't have the name of the store, but it is the Ginza district in Tokyo, which we're going to come back to because we end up staying there at the end of the trip. And look at these. These are ceramic chickens, really beautifully done. We didn't buy them, but we were looking at them. And here's the price. So 22,000 yen. At a 1-to-1 dollar thing, that would be 1 to 100, that would be $220. But at 40% off, it's quite a bit less than that. Of course, I'm not buying this and bringing it home only to have it shatter in my suitcase, but you can see the kind of artistry involved. There's Nina. There are these amazing spoons and forks that are wooden and plastic that they have a cool feel on the mouth. And she was really into it. So we ended up buying a bunch of these. And here's just a little video I took of the spot. And they had this really cool unicorn. And there's a view out the back. This is like, I don't know, the 7th floor or something. And you can kind of get a sense of, this is how it's structured. All this stationary, cool, crazy cool stuff. That's our guide, Junko. And she was very reserved, like many Japanese. And it was a really wonderful experience. So here is the location, if you guys are interested in going here. I don't remember the name of the shop. Let me see if I can, zoom in so that you can take a screenshot if you're interested in going to this place. Maybe it even has the name here. You can see it's in the fancy district. I don't see the name of, maybe it's Fug, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not a very good tour guide, unlike our tour guide. So then we went back to the hotel, and this was the next morning, and you can see the sunrise again from a different viewpoint. Really just beautiful. Tokyo spread out all around, and just land of the rising sun again. Just a beautiful view. This is a great shot because you can see just as the sun is starting to peek out. Just beautiful. Now, this is what's interesting, again, about these big cities in Japan is they're integrated with natural parks and spaces and spiritual spots like shrines. So that morning we walked outside across the street to the park that was right there. And you'll see joggers and business people walking through, and they'll stop at a shrine, they'll bow, they'll do this thing, they'll make an offering with a coin, bow twice, then clap, and then bow again. And it's kind of a Shinto ritual, kind of an offering to the shrine and to the gods within and the spirits within. And in those spots are these natural places where there's wildlife, like these turtles, which was just remarkable to see in downtown Tokyo, this kind of wildlife just preserved right here in an urban park. Just absolutely stunning how it's integrated with everything seamlessly. There's Margaret, my wife, and you can see just people kind of walking through. And this is where it got really interesting. So we stumbled on a kind of shrine that was hidden away in this park. And immediately we could feel the energy in this place. This was a bullfrog in a little pond right in front of the shrine, guarding the shrine, it felt like. And check it out. Do you hear the bugs? Do you see the flies? We thought it was dead, and then it stuck its tongue out and moved a little. It's just allowing dinner to sit on its face. Look at this. You can hear the cicadas and these weird bugs chirping. It's a very energetically strange and beautiful experience. And here is a video where, and I have my headphones on so I can hear the audio. This is a video where I actually regretted taking this video because right after I did, I felt energetically like I'd violated some norm here, that, you're not supposed to video what I videoed. It really felt like that. I actually got a little frightened. And you'll see why, because there are these fox deities called kitsune that guard a lot of these shrines. They're associated with a spirit called Inari, and they're associated with, success, fertility, prosperity, longevity, these kind of things, different things in different contexts. And they're guarding the shrine. And in some shrines, you'll see signs that say, no photos, please. This one didn't have that, but you still got the sense that this is not really something you capture in a photograph. And I actually was like, I'm not supposed to do this. It felt like, ooh, that's the kind of energy in these places. It was actually beautiful. Like, it gets very still, even with all the bugs going and the noises of the city. There's a sacred stillness at the center of it, and you can feel it when you're there. And both my wife and I were like, you can't even talk about it. And you pay a price at these shrines, a blood price in the form of mosquitoes. So there aren't mosquitoes in a lot of parts of Tokyo until you go to these little secret shrines where there's standing water where that bullfrog was. And so you're feeling them biting you and you don't care. You're paying the price to enter these places, the spirit world. That's what it feels like. It's really quite remarkable. So here's that spot that I felt like I shouldn't be videotaping. Even just watching the clip back puts me right back there. And this is the heart of Tokyo, a major metropolitan area. It's really beyond the descriptions. And when you're there, it's even beyond. And this is just woven into the fabric of daily life. Really, really remarkable. Now, moving to a different kind of note, also remarkable is the juxtaposition of the ancient. And in Japan, there are two types of toilets. There are the old-fashioned Japanese toilets, which are basically flat on the ground, and they flush by flushing water through basically a hole in the ground that you squat over. So it's like a squat toilet. And then there's the Western toilets. And their Western toilets are so freaking advanced that, look, we have a bidet, a Toto Japanese toilet at home. It's nothing like the ones here. These are like next level. Seat warmers, hot water blown right up your exhaust port. I'll play a little video of one right here. And this was just in our hotel, and they're all over the place. They're in the public restrooms. But what's interesting is the squat toilets, we got to try them. There's something to this stance of squatting when you go number two, where just everything aligns up. And, they talk about this with the squatty potty that was on sale. Remember this whole thing where, you lift up your legs into a squat and it's supposed to open up the colon and all that. There's something to it. And I wonder whether a lot of the problems we have in the West with, whether it's constipation or diverticulosis, these little outpouchings in the colon that happen from increased colonic pressure, whether it's because we sit on these Western style toilets at the wrong angle, and actually a squatting position is better. So raising up the legs may be an advantage. But anyways, that's speculation. Here is reality. The Japanese toilet. So this was our room at the Keio Plaza in Tokyo.
Hello,
Opens
toilet.
automatically.
I'm a man.
And then when you're ready to pee, up goes the seat. And if you actually look at this is the controller for the thing. And it's got all these different functions, like blow it up your butt, blow it up the more anterior aspects for ladies, seat warming, flush, small flush, bigger flush, light mist, bowl clean. And what's crazy is they'll just, the machine itself will just automatically wash the bowl before it flushes. So it'll shoot water in a circle so that you don't get those little dingleberries stuck to the ceramic. It's next level, people. Like, let's be honest. The Japanese could try to be an empire again, could invade China, do horrible things like they did in World War II, and we did horrible things to them in return. And it would still be worth it to have these toilets. So now here we are on the express train. It's a different type of train. It doesn't stop at a million stops. The express train going to Hakone, which is our next stop, which is a mountain resort near Tokyo that has hot springs. And we're going to talk about that. So here's a really crazy aspect of these trains. The seats normally face all forward. What you can do is you can turn the seats around. They rotate 360. So if you're staying with friends or family, you can point the seats in a four-way like this. And you can see here we didn't do that. We're all facing forward. But here we are with the folks we were traveling with, and you can see you can turn it around. And it's just beautiful. It's just a great way to do a train. And here's the scenery as you get outside of Tokyo. You have these rice fields, beautiful green, lush scenery, gorgeous, just really, really beautiful. And here's just some imagery of as the train, we then switched to another train. Boy, I hope I actually was on the right, I hope I was on the right camera when I was showing you this. Well, here it is if you missed it. Here's that train with the stuff that flips around, and here's this. Hopefully I was on the right camera because I'm doing the cameras myself. But here we are on the way to Hakone, and you take the steepest railway in the world. And the way it works is it goes forward and then it goes back in a series of switchbacks. And it just makes its way up the mountain like this. And there's conductors that get out and like switch the tracks and do all that. It's crazy. So here's some video of how that kind of looks as you're going up the mountain. It starts relatively flat. And it feels more like a subway. You can stand and you start going up. And you can see as you start getting up the mountain, you get a lot of foliage. We'll fast forward a little. And they call this the Hydrangea Express because of the hydrangeas on the side of it. And they're all in bloom the time we were there. A lot of people standing. And here is another, as we get further up, you can see it's getting steeper and steeper. And then we get to the point where we transfer to a gondola sky car. And this was really crazy. Like, there's something about this experience. You're basically flying over a volcanic crater. So this is an old volcano, a caldera, the crater area outside of Tokyo. Because remember, Japan sits on the tectonic plates on the ring of fire in the Pacific. That's why they have earthquakes, tsunamis, etc. But it's also sitting on a bed of hot water. So there are hot springs everywhere called onsen. Onsen. And they're built in these they're built everywhere, but this is a renowned spot for it. And there are vents in the ground where sulfur is coming out and hot steam is coming out. And even though it's like 100 degrees outside, like we were just like riveted by this. Now this sky car we're about to be on had no air conditioning. So it's like cooking in this oven, watching these volcanic vents going. It's like being in Hades. It's really quite remarkable. So here's kind of what that looks like. Tourists from everywhere, from Beijing, from Europe, from the United States, from Japan. Mrs. Dog taking the photos. There's the gondola coming the other way.
No way, that thing's too.
And now, here we are actually flying over the caldera where I guess they're mining sulfur or something. Let me see if I can zoom in a little. So you can actually see steam coming out of these vents here and here. And here's another view of that. And here is a good look. So you have this sulfuric acid or sulfuric anus, and out is coming all this sulfur and gas. And you can see the like mining stuff here, or the structures here that are built, and you're flying over them in this gondola in Hakone. This is where it is. Let me see if I have a good, hang on, if I can show you a map of where this is. It might be here. There we go. So this is where we are relative to Tokyo. Here's Tokyo. We took the train here, the express, and then that switchback train up the mountain, and then the gondola here. And look at this. It's an old volcano, and in the caldera, the old, where the lava used to be, magma, I guess that's underground lava, is now a lake and all this sulfur springs and stuff. By the way, here's Mount Fuji, which we couldn't see because the air was too hazy because it was too hot. But Mount Fuji is right here. Really a remarkable place. And here is the visitor center that we ended up at, where they sell these sulfuric hot spring baked eggs that are black, that are supposed to increase your lifespan by 4 years for every egg you eat. So we bought 3 eggs. We haven't eaten them yet. Here's some pictures my kids took of me and Mrs. Dog on the gondola. How romantic. And here is a shot from the gondola going down now towards Lake, I think they call it Lake Ashi. And you'll notice there is a pirate ship on the lake, which we were going to ride. So check it out. Let's see if this'll. There it is. And we got on it. So it it was something else. Now, Nina got to face her fears because she is terrified of motion sickness. She's gotten motion sickness before. She doesn't like to throw up. So she was afraid being on this boat would make her sick, but we dragged her on anyways. And we'll see how that came out. Here's Maya at the top. And she was like beside herself because here we are in this volcanic lake. And it was so beautiful, you guys, like just gorgeous. The thing takes you from one end of the lake to the other in kind of a loop. And here's a video of us like Titanic style, top of the world. Much cooler up here, less hot. Kind of kitschy tourist ship. There we are taking selfies with the pirate captain. And this is Nina. No motion sickness. Super happy. So one more fear faced and overcome. There's Mrs. Dog on the deck below. And I was up in I guess it's the bird's nest. And then when we landed, and when we hit the other shore, there's shrines again, just everywhere. And these little red bibs are little sacred signs and offerings. And here is our onsen, or our ryokan, which is the Japanese style bed and breakfast. This is a fancy one called Gora Kadan. And it was beyond. It's one of the nicest in Japan. And we decided this would be our splurge accommodation, is staying in a place like this, just to experience like what's the apex of this thing. And we could only afford a night there, but we would have stayed there forever. It was amazing. This is the room itself, and the kids would stay in here. It's all Japanese style tatami mats. You're all barefoot, you can see. And they feel so good on the feet. We were like, how do we line our house with this? Because we're shoes off in our house too, but carpet doesn't even feel as nice as this. So the kids slept in there. We were in here, and look at what they give you as a welcome. This is mochi. So it's like a rice dough stuffed with red bean paste that's sweet and dusted with a kind of I think this was a peanut, ground peanut. So delicious. This is the sort of shrine area within the room. And just, you think, oh, is this fake? And you go a little closer and you're like, no, these are real Japanese maple leaves and real flowers that they've set up here. And all the forests around Hakone are covered in Japanese maples. And I guess they just call them maples because they're endemic or native. This was the deck outside the front of our space. I mean, guys, this is gorgeous. And you can see the Japanese style wooden sandals. Because you're barefoot, you go out on the deck, you can wear those sandals if you want. But I just went out barefoot because it was so clean, so beautiful. And they have a space here overlooking that, which is like a meditation reading nook. I used it for meditation. It was so perfect for that. And of course, the modern crazy toilet. Two major toilet brands in Japan, Lixil, because it Lixils your anus with just a delicate spray of warm water, and Toto, which we're more familiar with. I prefer the Toto. This is a Toto toilet. Really a fantastic toilet, and there's the rest of the bathroom in a glance. This is the sort of little washroom. Now, as you enter this space, you're going to see something really cool. This is the formal bathroom with the tub. This is your own private hot spring tub. Hot water is constantly pouring in and pouring out, coming from the ground. And it smells vaguely of sulfur, which is really cool. And in Japan, you shower before you get in a tub. The tub is not for cleaning, it's for soaking and relaxing. So you always shower off before you get in. And these are things to put cold water on yourself and wash off and that kind of thing. And the shower is right over here. This was the kids' room, by the way. And these tatami type mats, so comfortable. They look like, oh, they're so thin. How are you going to, dude, they're so freaking comfortable. Here I am about to dive into this pool, man. It was dope. And it's connected exactly to that outside space I showed you earlier. Here's the view from the tub room outside. I mean, dude, this is like crazy awesome. So beautiful. You're just instantly relaxed. And coming from Tokyo, where it was like the sphincter tone was high, like, because Japanese society is intense. There's a lot of repression. There's a lot of intensity, a lot of formality, a lot of politeness. But you get the sense, and talking to locals, they're like, yeah, we hide a lot of judgmentalism. And it's a tough place to work and live sometimes for Japanese. And so, you know, there's a lot of idea that you then come to places like this to unwind. That's why the bath culture is so important in Japan, or drinking, or these kind of relaxation strategies. And you could see why. Just, you know, a short distance from Tokyo is this. This was the dinner they served us as part of the bed and breakfast aspect of the ryokan. Insane. Like, look at this. What even is this? So here's your maple leaf. You've got octopus in this wrapper of some vegetable I couldn't recognize that was edible. These are pickled ginger, a little piece of sushi here in a vegetable or tofu wrapper, a gelatinized something. I forget what it was, but it was incredible. This, I think, is crab and like a kind of little sashimi thing. And I forget what this was, but this was like a yam dish, kind of slimy. More images of that. This was a cold soup, so refreshing on a hot day. Look at the presentation of the soup. You don't want to eat it. You just want to stare at it. You want to fall in love with it. And it was delicious. Here's the first kind of sashimi course. By the way, Nina's wearing the traditional Japanese robes they gave us in the Ryokan. This was our host. This is squid, raw squid, tuna, fatty tuna, that fresh wasabi. And this was a whitefish. I forget the name of it. These are edible flowers from the garden. This is a kind of mackerel, I think. I actually forget the exact name of this fish. But what was fascinating here is two things. One is this is fresh ginger. So you can't eat the stem, but you can eat this. And it is super pungent, incredibly spicy and delicious, really refreshing with the fish, which you have to be careful of bones. Speaking of bones, this is the backbone, tail fin, fins, and head of the fish, deep fried to a crisp and edible and entirely delicious. They were surprisingly good. You're kind of suspicious going, can you eat this? There are bones here. Yep, they're deep fried. It's kind of like the way you eat sardine bones, but this is deep fried and so flavorful, crunchy. They had a beautiful texture. It was unbelievable. Speaking of unbelievable, this is Wagyu beef again. Now, what was remarkable about this was the texture of this was melt in your mouth. Like it just dissolves like filet mignon can do, but this was different, like next level. It's paired with these wonderful vegetables that offset some of the oiliness of this. And then these are peppercorns, and I think they came from Japan. One peppercorn per like a third of this, it was so flavorful and it just made the dish. Like without the peppercorn, you would have been like, oh, maybe this is a little bland. The peppercorn just made it pop. It was crazy. And this is a horseradish kind of paste. Really, crap you negative. I'm sad that I'm looking at these pictures right now because I'm remembering what this was like. It was so good, you guys. But yeah, you can go there. It's great. You can probably make it if you're really good. But it was just great to see how it was done. And Nina approved. She gave me her peppercorns, though, because she doesn't like pepper. This was the rice, a different course in this meal. So this kind of really flavored rice. You can see here, this is lotus root kind of baked into the rice. So delicious with the sesame and everything. And every grain of rice is independent. It's not a glommed up goo. It's like this delicious, firm, it's a masterpiece how they do rice. This was a miso soup and some more pickled vegetables. And dessert was the sweetest watermelon you've ever had in this broth that was like candy. It was so good and fresh tasting. And there we are back at our room in our Japanese gear. They give you these so you can wander the premises. It was really comfortable, even in the warm weather. It was beautiful. There's our Sonicare toothbrushes. Now, I'm going to show you some images of this hot spring. I got to say this, though. So they had hot springs in the room. And I'm realizing this video is going to be really long. I'm sorry. It'll be all time coded up so you can skip to sections you're interested in. I realize this is like the most boring thing if you're not interested. But if you are, stay with me. So, and it's fun for me. It's actually really fun to relive this because it puts me right back there a couple weeks ago. Because it was such a wonderful experience to be there with family too and share it with them. So the hot springs in this place called Gora Kadan, and I'll show you here. I found the map of it. This in I think it's in the town of Gora in Hakone. The onsen called Gora Kadan was right here. And you can see the rest of the town is kind of a tourist town. And then there's that lake that we went around. And there's Hakone, the main place. And you can kind of get a sense of the geography here. So here you are back in the town. Let me get back to the pictures. That night I couldn't sleep because it was just too freaking awesome. And the night we sat out on that deck, my wife and I, the kids went to bed, and we just sat and meditated. And it wasn't even a formal meditation. It was just sitting. And you could feel the energy of the place. You could feel the stillness. And I had this deep sense that we'd been here before, like both me and my wife, like we were looking at each other going, this has happened before. Like, it was almost like you got the sense that we're reincarnated ancient Japanese in some way. But then you realize, awareness is everything and everyone. So there's really no separation. And you got this real deep, profound experience. So I woke up at 3 a.m., couldn't sleep. Wife was still sleeping. Went down to the communal bath. The communal bath is a hot spring. There's an indoor and an outdoor, and they separate it into men's and women's. And each night they swap them. So each group can have a different experience because they're different. So I went into the men's. There was not a single soul awake. So I had the entire communal hot spring to myself. A series of these wonderful showers where you wash yourself and clean with soap and everything, wash off all the soap, and then get into the communal bath. It was like being back in the womb. This naturally hot spring heated bath, steam coming off, beautiful surroundings indoors. I thought that was the height of it. And I'm not a bath guy. I'm a shower dude. Get in and out, go do on with your day. Then I went outside to the hot spring bath they had outside, and it's covered by a canopy of maples, but you could see the stars through it. It's 3 a.m. It's a rock garden, feels volcanic, like primordial, and there's water everywhere, and you just crawl in and you sit in these rocks, and you're surrounded by this primordially heated water with steam coming off it. And you can't take pictures because you can't bring cell phones into the bath because there are naked people there, but it was totally empty. But I didn't bring my cell phone out of respect for the rules. And I mean, I can't even really describe what that was like. It was a feeling of just infinite solitude, being connected to the energy of the earth. And you could see why the Japanese have such a fetish for this. Like, I was like, yeah, this is a thing. And I was so blessed to get to do that because I would have been a little self-conscious otherwise. And going in there like fully naked in this thing, open to the elements, in this, foreign country, but feeling like you've been here like this all your life, it really defies description. And yet here I am trying to describe something that's indescribable. So here was then our private version of that. And you can kind of get a sense of what this bath shower setup is like. There's a washcloth there that they give you, this really thin washcloth. There's the shower. All the showers have so much pressure you don't even know what to do with all that water. Just really gorgeous experience. And this was then the morning looking out. Now, you guys can see I did a video on YouTube where my wife and I were up in the morning, and I did a live stream from this balcony. And you can just look at my face there in that video. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. You can kind of see, oh, yeah, it's a different kind of place. Like, I was gone. There was no me there. It was beautiful. Here's a video of what that balcony is like in the morning, around 4-something a.m. Notice how bright it is even at 4 a.m. There's the tub room, all kind of seamlessly connected. And just another view from the tub room. This was the actual Ryokan grounds, the premises, and it was all a work of art. Like, look at this. And there's the kids and my wife in their breakfast attire with the Japanese sandals and everything. It was really cute and adorable to do this. Here's their Zen garden in the back. I mean, look at this thing. Crazy. So perfect and beautiful and manicured, and yet it feels so natural, feels like part of the environment. And this was breakfast. Now, breakfast was off the chain. This is where the Japanese breakfast comes into play. This is breakfast, a piece of oily fish. I think it was cod, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, it was. This was a piece of black cod. So good, with a horseradish wasabi aioli here and radish. This is that tofu that's like kind of like yogurt, that homemade tofu. This is salt, bonito flakes, which are a kind of a fish that they dry and shave into these melt in your mouth kind of flakes. And this is seaweed, and this is to be put on rice, on fish, and the tofu. These are pickled vegetables. This is a pickled plum, really pungent and delicious. This is seaweed that comes in packs that you crumble over the tofu or the rice or into your soup. And this is a kind of a sweet fish paste. It's not a paste really. There's little bits of fish in there, and you can put that on everything. It is so good. This is Japanese green tea, and they gave us juice because, well, we're Americans. Here's one of my other daughter's fish. This was a different type of fish that they flay open. They actually served barracuda this morning, which one of our friends had. And I mean, look at that fish. Gorgeous. This was a salmon choice, and really, really good. There's those pickles again, and just a wider view of the meal. Really good. This is that tamago egg and those little fish that I was talking about before. You can see them here. They're served in a lot of dishes. Really, really good. So that whole experience in Hakone and Gora was just next level. Like, got to experience the Japanese onsen, the hot springs, the Japanese breakfast, the legendary hospitality that's there. All that sulfuric acid, all that crazy stuff, just like an hour out of Tokyo, like hardly anywhere. And then we got to go to Kyoto, which we were really looking forward to, because this is the heart of ancient Japan, the imperial city, the one city that was spared bombing during World War II. So all the ancient stuff is still there, unlike Tokyo, which was pretty much burned to the ground. And it did not disappoint. But to get there, we got to take the legendary bullet train of Brad Pitt fame. And I'll show you a little clip of that train pulling up. So that's what the bullet train looks like at the station. It's like a weird, like retro Disney futuristic, like Futureland type of thing. And you have free tickets for this, so you can't miss your train or you're screwed. They were hot and tired at this point, man. It was a lot. They're not used to that heat. And here, now this is interesting. So roll with me on this. This is us getting on the train. So the train pulls up. We got the timings right. We think we get on this train. This is what it looks like inside, like a high-end first-class air flight. Super clean. Now, what that person was saying overhead was subsequently translated into English, and we could see it then on the board, which is, this is the train going to X, which was the opposite of where we were going. And they announced, we will be leaving momentarily. All of us filed onto this train, and we look up there and we're like, because figuring out the Japanese rails can be very difficult because you have to wait for the English, and even then it's confusing. They come so close together that you think, like in America, you're like, well, this is our train because it's come 6 minutes before ours is supposed to leave. So it has to be our train. So we get on. It's the only bullet train here. It's got to be this. Nope. They stack them up. So we get on the one right before ours. And there's a dawning recognition. My wife and I look up and we're like, we look at each other and we go, are we on the wrong train? We look up. And then the fact that we both asked the question confirmed it to us. We're like, we turn to the kids, we're like, get off now. run because they're like, we're leaving momentarily. And we were halfway into the car. So we just start hauling ass out of the thing in reverse of what you saw in the video, just running. And we get out and it's like literally 20 seconds and the door goes, and the train goes, we would have been hours away from where we were supposed to be next. Just barely missed it. So that was so much fun, honestly, because it makes a good story. At the time, we were like, wow. And my wife and I were comparing notes as to the physiologic response that you get. So both of us had the physical panic response, like, ooh, fight or flight, like we got to get out of here. But both of us had also the sense that we were watching the physical response and that it wasn't, it was kind of almost like an appearance. And that's the nice thing about meditative practice or awakening or whatever is you start to see these phenomenon instead of being the phenomenon, getting completely lost and paralyzed. And so spontaneous action just happens. You don't have to think about it. This is hard to describe, but it is a real phenomenon. So anyways, that was the fight or flight, getting on bullet train. And then we actually got on and you can see kind of how fast this thing goes. And it's just starting to speed up, getting out of town. You could see it accelerating and then through the tunnel. It is just a really, really fast, quiet, beautiful train. And there we are. There's me like physically recovering from the last 20 minutes. Nina's already ready to take a nap. And the seats are super comfy. There's a woman who comes by with food. One of the fascinating things about Japan is the lack of trash cans. They don't have them. Even in the big cities, everywhere, you got to pack your own trash. So you're very thoughtful about it. Now, someone told me, you can weigh in the comments, that this lack of trash cans started with the sarin gas poisonings from that cult in the subways back in the, I forget, it was in the 90s or something. And they started taking out trash cans because they were worried they were going to stash sarin gas in those trash cans. But I don't know what the answer is, but it works culturally because it keeps things very clean because people are more thoughtful about generating trash because you're not just going to be able to throw it away. And throwing it on the street will get you the death stare. So there's a lot of social order there. But yeah, trash is one of the big adaptations you have to make as an American, where you're just throwing trash everywhere. There's trash cans all over the place. They're overflowing. Not in Japan. So here we are on the bullet train, and here we are at the train station in Kyoto, where there's some legendary ramen apparently, and we had it. Here's Maya having karage, which is that fried chicken. That's her favorite thing. And here are the toppings. Again, the bonito flake, a raw egg, and seaweed. This was to throw on a rice bowl that I'd gotten. And because this was a kind of tourist-oriented ramen place, they put thank you in different languages on their seaweed, which was kind of dope. By the way, this pork was so tender. It was so fresh. The broth was like you could cut it with a knife. It was so thick and delicious and savory. And here's Kyoto, just ancient already. Our breakfast at the hotel, we stayed at a place called the Ace Hotel. And here it is on the map. Let me show you Kyoto and where it is. So here we are at the Ace Hotel in Kyoto. It's at an intersection. There's a train station right here. The Imperial Palace is here, where the old emperor used to be. Now it's in Tokyo. And then this castle, Motorikyu, how do you say that? Hold on. Motorikyu Nijo Castle. We went there and you'll see pictures of that. But like, this is where we stayed. It's kind of a hipster new hotel. Didn't love the hipster aspects because I was like, if I wanted hipster, I'd stay in the US. I want Japanese, but it was actually convenient and clean and fun. Here's Kyoto relative to where we were. So Tokyo, Hakone, then by Mount Fuji, Hakone, that place we stayed. Then we took bullet train to Kyoto Station. Then we took a subway up to our hotel. So here we are in Kyoto. Eventually we'll get to Osaka and Nara. So this is where we are. So now, this was the breakfast at the Ace Hotel. And we had a mix of, we picked some American options and some Japanese options. So here are the American options. You have this omelet with this bread, a salad, and bacon. Even the American options were better. The juices, this is apple juice. Look how cloudy it is. It's fresh. It's actually got apple pulp in it. Now here's my Japanese breakfast. Miso salmon, that fish stuff I was telling you about, an egg that's poached and you pour on the rice, the pickled vegetables and miso. So good. And it came with a side of yogurt and granola, mixing the American and the traditional Japanese. It was delicious, you guys. We got so spoiled by these breakfasts. Like it was just beyond. All right. So now we ended up taking a day trip up to the bamboo forest and shrines up in a different part of Kyoto. And this was the next day. And here we are at these shrines. Maya is so hot. She's practically melting. It was 100 degrees in the shade. Everyone carries these umbrellas for sun protection, and they're necessary, but they don't really help enough for the heat. So you got to drink a lot of fluid. Here I am taking a picture of one of the shrines. This shrine is to Jizo, Jizo. You'll see Jizo all throughout Japan. This is the sort of deity that protects mothers and infants and children. And that's why you see these little bibs on. It's a way that people can make an offering for the health and protection of mothers and children. It's really, really beautiful. One of the most popular deities in Japan. Here we are in the bamboo forest, which was crazy. Like this ancient bamboo forest. There's the whole family. And you can get a sense of just what this is like, really primordial and beautiful, because we just don't have these kind of forests in the U.S. Here's a lizard that we caught that had this just beautiful colored tail on it. And this was funny. So Nina grabbed a cicada shell and put it on her shoulder. She's a pretty brave girl. She just loves insects and things, and was walking around with it, freaking people out. Now here's where it got kind of ugly. So remember I said it's like 99 degrees, 100% humidity. It's the middle of the day. One thing I learned is that I think I'm pretty desert adapted. Like in a day I'd already acclimatized. I don't have hair. I wear these thin sort of moisture wicking shirts, and I'm carrying a backpack. It doesn't even matter, with a bunch of stuff in it. I hardly drink any fluid during the day, and I stay cool, and I'm not thirsty, and I still make urine. It's crazy. So I think being Middle Eastern by ancient descent, like there's some adaptation. Not everybody has this. So the kids were really struggling at times, and my wife would get quite hot. And so you have to be really careful, drink a lot of fluid. And the funny thing about Japan is there's vending machines everywhere, these really fancy vending machines, and you can get everything: green tea, barley tea, coffee, black coffee, milk coffee, water, Coke, all in the vending machine, sandwiches, and they're super cheap. And you can just swipe your subway pass over it, and it just deducts the money from it. And in you go. And I tell you, like, that was a lifesaver, because we didn't carry a lot of stuff. We would just buy it as we needed it, drink it, and then pack it away, because there's no garbage cans. So here we are climbing 1,000,000 stairs up to, let me see if we have the name of this. I got to find one that's got a name. Yeah, here we are. So this is the part of Kyoto we're in. So our hotel was back here. We are in the northwest quadrant. Greenery, temples, the bamboo forest, and we're going up to Arashiyama Park. Arashiyama, my pronunciation's terrible. And this is also known as Monkey Park. So we told the kids, and there's, temples and shrines all throughout. We told the kids, listen, there's a monkey park. It's hundreds of steps upward in the heat. We don't have to do this. And they were like, did you say monkey park? We're doing this. And suddenly all their fatigue and complaining evaporated, and it was mind over matter. They're like, monkeys, must see monkeys. And they booked up these stairs, left me and mom in the dust. And we went up, and like people were dying on these stairs, but we're like, you know what? Monkeys, got to do it. So we travel up these billions of stairs. And here's us with our guide, Miwa, who was amazing. Like, talk about desert adapted. Look what she's wearing. And she's just crushing the game with this big old backpack, didn't even break a sweat. And by the way, look at this. This is so funny. Remember I told you about the mosquito guardians at the shrines? This was 3. By the end of the trip, this entire leg was covered with mosquito bites. Now let's see where. I feel like we missed something here. There we go. Okay. So there was a river on the way. This actually happened after the monkey park. And so we cooled off by this river. It was really beautiful on the other end of the monkey park. There's me and Maya. My wife took a little shot of us. It was one of the things about this is it was just so wonderful to see the kids deeply appreciate this whole experience. Like, Maya's 11. She turned 12 just last week. Nina's 15. First of all, they could tell they were really privileged. Like they would say, God, we're so lucky to be able to do this. And they loved adventuring with the food and the insects and the different places. Yeah, they'd complain when it was hot, but it was okay. They managed it. They got to buy souvenirs. They got to do things, spend their own money, get a sense of independence, which I'll talk about, where they would just wander Tokyo with a GPS. We gave them a pocket Wi-Fi that they could connect their phones to. We ourselves used AT&T's international plan, which was $10 a day, and you get unlimited data like you have at home. So we were able to use our phones to navigate and to check the internet and all that kind of thing. And they were able to do it through a pocket Wi-Fi that our travel agent gave us. And so they wandered around with GPS. So they got independence. They didn't have us helicoptering them. They got to buy things in a foreign country by themselves. They got to learn the culture, get excited about it, bring it home, try to use some of what they learned here. It was really wonderful. And then we got to spend time with them. It was just perfect. So here we are at the top of that mountain, Arashiyama, and Monkey Park. And notice, here's Kyoto. Here's me and Margaret. What's this? That's a monkey. And they just wander around, all around you. No cages or anything. It is a wild monkey park. And they have signs everywhere about what not to do to the monkeys. And yeah, there he is. And you can see it actually. Look, just cruising. It was so worth the hike, you guys. All of us were like, wow. Here's some video. Look, we're doing video selfie.
Poppin'.
This place is poppin'.
Look,
And there's monkeys.
You can feed the monkeys over there.
There's a monkey right here.
Oh, wow. Oh, wait, what? Oh, me.
Look, we're videoing.
A monkey?
Yeah, look at that.
Look at that monkey.
All of Kyoto.
Look at this monkey. We want banana.
Look at this banana.
Can we go feed the monkey?
Oh, that was such a dad video. Speaking of dad videos, here are the monkeys. Look at this. You could feed them.
I want to feed the monkeys.
There goes Nina to go feed the monkeys. She saw that and they ran inside, no questions asked. Bought some monkey food. Look at this baby monkey. Oh my God. Look at him. Completely adorable. And I think this is where the kids feed the monkeys. Let me see. Not quite, not yet. Hold on. Here we go. So here's them inside feeding these monkeys. This is Nina's camera. And I think she did it portrait mode, so there's no live video here. What the heck? It's frozen. Hang on. Let me go back. There we go. Yeah. So these little monkeys just grab look at that baby monkey. Like, dude, kids go crazy for this ish. They were going nuts. Here's my video of them from the outside feeding. Yeah, go for it. Look at that.
Bro, monkey. See that?
Isn't that nuts? And then some other homies showed up. Then the baby showed up. Oh my God, it's so cute. They were losing their damn minds. They were so happy. They were beside themselves. Here's just a little more of that. Yeah, go for it. I think we had, yeah. Look at that. Look, the baby's coming at you. So much fun. And these are Nina's pictures. She's a really good photographer. So she took pictures of the monkeys. And she's got an iPhone 12 or something. And just these pictures are amazing. And they're just all in your face. Look at him. He's just chilling. He's kicking his leg out. Oh, man. These are like National Geographic level photos. And here we are at lunch afterwards where our guide took us. I wanted to show you this because the way these restaurants are set up, they have these gardens in the center of the building and you're barefoot everywhere and these tatami mats that I was telling you about, and then you set up for the food. And this was the name of this restaurant. It's called Kushikura. It's very close to our hotel. And you can kind of see what the menu's like. This is the English menu. And I think our guide helped us order some off the Chinese menu, or the Japanese menu. So you can see the kind of prices here. This whole rice thing with all this stuff was 1,800 yen, which is roughly, I think, $12 or $13, and there's no tip. And all the stuff is refilled. It's really good. Oyakodon is this egg and rice and chicken dish. So delicious, you guys. And these are the skewers, or yakitori. They're these charcoal grilled skewers, and you'll see them in a second. And all the drinks and everything. It's just nuts. Look at this. So these are the yakitori. This is a chicken dish. This is chicken liver. Really good. Chicken breast with a sweet plum sauce. This is a chicken wing spread out and skewered with the skin. Rice, vegetables, pickles. These are the pickled vegetables again. This is that oyakidon. I said that wrong. It is chicken, egg. It's kind of sweet. It's over rice. It is stunningly delicious. And here is one of those chicken dishes. So there's the chicken over rice. It's grilled over that charcoal. This is the egg that you put over the rice. A miso soup, wasabi with some sliced basil. And these vegetables, dude, the corn was to die for. And this is all of us enjoying that Japanese style sitting on the ground. It was so good, you guys. Like just phenomenal. Oh, here's that egg over rice. Oh, it's making me so hungry. It's like noon over here right now. I'm doing this and I'm just starving. Okay, so here we are at, remember the castle I pointed to? Let's see if we can see the name of it. Yeah, it's Motorikyu Nijo Castle. So this was the castle of the Shogun in ancient times. And the Shogun was underneath the emperor, but still was like a military leader in Japan and had his own castle and would take visitors and stuff. And so we walked through this castle. We didn't bring the kids because it was too hot and they're not interested. But we were like, oh, wow, look at this. So this is where the Shogun stayed. And you're like, oh, there's cool actors in there playing the Shogun and the people coming to present and the different warlords and all that. And then you realize, wait a minute. Oh my God, these dudes are fake. They're wax sculptures. Pretty freaking crazy in the ancient. And all this stuff is original art that was there, you know, from hundreds of years. And outside in the grounds are a masterpiece of art. They're classic Japanese garden. Look at this. This is like out of a painting. There's just a heron just chilling, just like straight chillax in there. You're like, what the hell? And here's the gardens. I mean, come on, you guys. Look at that. And then we went shopping at these quirky little stores in a different part of town. So this is in Kyoto. This is like a shopping district near the Nishiki Market, which we'll show you. There are these covered, they take alleys and they cover them so that it's not, you won't get rained on or too much sun. And there are these little stores. And so Nina was finding all the hipster gear. There's Maya finding bucket hats. I bought a bucket hat from here, which I still wear. It's dope. These are the covered marketplaces I was telling you about. These are two alleys and a street. And sometimes you'll see cars driving through here. And it's covered. This is an interesting phenomenon. So there are these little stores, 7-Elevens and Family Mart. They're convenience stores, and they sell everything, and it is delicious, including food. Here's fried chicken, and Maya and Nina loved this chicken so much. It was better than anything we've ever had in the U.S. It was so good, you guys. And it was like 130 yen. Like that's like 90 cents or something. It was crazy. And there we are. Let's see, where are we here? Oh, okay. This is one of my favorite places in all of Japan that we went. This is Nanzen-ji. It's a Zen temple up in a different part of Kyoto. So before we were up in the mountains on the other side. Here we are here. And everything's accessible by subway. Nanzen-ji Temple getting up into the hills around Kyoto. Ancient Zen temple, tons of history and energy here. This was the entrance to the temple. And this is a pile of incense ash that's been burned over the years, and they shape it, the monks shape it into this mound, and you put new incense in the top, and people are making offerings. Here's the main shrine, and you can see the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas embodied there, and just this incredibly ornate, beautiful, look at the ceiling, all made of wood, and the art there. Just gorgeous. And there were quite a few tourists at this part of it. And just the woodwork is crazy. And these were the grounds. So you can just kind of see like the architecture of the brick and the stone and the symmetry of it and how beautiful and weathered it is. And it's integrated right into nature with these Japanese maples and these cedars. Look at that. And again, when you see my eyes look like this, it usually means that I'm feeling a really intense presence, like the energy of this place and the history of this place. Like it usually lights up like that. And I was feeling it here, like this place was special. Here we are climbing up. So there's tourists until there aren't. When you go up into these little secret climbs into the mountains, there's nobody. And we started climbing up in here, and you could see now you're in the forest looking down on the temple. Beautiful. There was this aqueduct here and this walk along the aqueduct. You just listen to the sounds of nature there and the serenity. And look at this. We found turtles in the aqueduct. All covered with moss. And there we are just like taking this like secret silent walk up into the hills with this flowing water. And then the sign saying, "Don't get next to the monkeys," because they're just wild monkeys out there. Now, this was really interesting. When we got out of the tourist areas, it was just still, there was nobody there. And I would find these little Buddhist shrines and I would sit and things would get very still. And this one, my kids snuck a picture of me. I just took off my backpack. You can see my back is super sweaty. And my kid took a picture of me. There's my bucket hat I bought the day prior, sitting here. And if I didn't have this picture, I'm not even sure I would remember this because I was gone. Like in this point, there's such an energy here. I just basically had my eyes open. I was looking at this shrine and all sense of self evaporated, all sense of place evaporated. And there was just the radiance of this moment. And you could see why they build these shrines and temples where and how they do. There's an energy here, and maybe it's all placebo, but it's real as experience. And it was really something special, you guys. Like, and I'm glad my daughter took a picture because I didn't even feel comfortable taking pictures here because I would have not even, I just remember being like, this place was incredible. And there's cemeteries attached to everything, and they act almost as shrines. You make offerings. It's beautiful. These beautiful scenes like this with the offerings here. And here we are now climbing up into a further kind of secret area where there are shrines, and you're starting to pay the mosquito price as you get up here. Look at this little hidden shrine. Whoops. Just gorgeous. And you can see how all of this is built into the mountain, going up to this secret spot up here. And here, these purification areas with flowing water, people making offerings. There's Maya looking down on the area there. Nina climbing up to find us. And here's a woman who found this secret shrine in the cave, burning incense and praying. Really beautiful. And then we're on to food. So I have to just say a few words about Nanzen-ji. There, it was busy and there were tourists, and then when there weren't, you feel that place. And there was a Zen garden there that we didn't see that our friends saw that, beyond looking at the pictures. If you go to Kyoto, go to Nanzen-ji, go to the garden, go to the secret places, feel what's there, which is like hundreds of years of this kind of way of being integrated with all just this one happening: mountain, sky, water, wildlife, all just one happening. So beautiful. It's the beauty of the whole Zen thing. That one sect of Buddhism that is so direct. It's so, hey, forget everything, forget Zen. It's just this. Now, speaking of just this was the next restaurant we ate at, a place called Omen, here in nearby a temple we went the next day called the Silver Temple. And I think that's where we were. And this is called mochi. It's a rice dish. It's like a rice dough that's chewy. And these were savory and sweet. This was like a peanut paste. These all had different flavors. They were so delicious. This is raw ginger, fresh ginger. Here are the pickled vegetables that you put in the udon, which is a type of noodle. It's a wheat noodle. And here is one udon dish: pork with a soybean paste, pickled cucumbers, and the udon noodles with all the flavoring and the broth. It was so good, you guys. Chewy, al dente, delicious. Here was a dish I got, which was a kind of sukiyaki with raw egg, beef, pickles, and rice underneath. And you mix it all up. Oh, sorry, not rice, noodles underneath. So freaking good. This is a different dish. The noodles come in a just a broth, and you pull them out and you dip them in this stuff, which is the flavor. It's the dipping style of udon, and then you suck them down. And then you have ice cream. Vanilla and matcha vanilla. Matcha is a ground fresh green tea, traditional to Japan. What they do is they cover the tea right before you harvest it, so it turns really green because it's making all this chlorophyll, and then they grind it up in this slow and labor-intensive process. And what that does is it creates a very pungent, high antioxidant, high caffeine kind of tea. And they use that powder in these matcha products, and it's so good, you guys. Like matcha, we bought a bunch. We've been drinking matcha in the US for years. And you can get a matcha latte at Starbucks, but it's nothing like this. It's nothing like this. This is next level. Another thing about Kyoto is how water is integrated into everything. Like you're just walking down the street and there's water in between buildings. And it creates this beautiful sense of place and presence and energy. And speaking of water, this is the river in Kyoto, very famous river walk. Just gorgeous. And you come at night and you see these girls, like near the geisha district, and it is just beautiful. This is where we are. So right here, and Gion is the geisha district up here. Ancient, beautiful buildings. And then you walk along the river. It's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, here's a view from the bridge above the river, and you can just see at night what it's like. All along the river, are restaurants that have seating out here, and you can look on the river. The city's over here and over here. Geisha district is over here. And there we are in our room. Remember I was telling you the Ace Hotel is kind of a hipster place? This is part of it. They have vinyl in every room. So that you have a record player and they give you some random records from the 70s. It's actually kind of groovy, man. I like vinyl. Now, this was another example of Kyoto. Shrines everywhere. In the middle of the city, we found this right next to the shopping. There was this little secret hidden away place with carp. You can hear the cicadas. It had a real energy, if you could feel it, right in the middle of office buildings. And then you have Jizo, that deity I was telling you about, for mothers and kids, and a shrine. There's the shrine. And these really tame pigeons that would pretty much eat out of your hand. Flying rats, but they're beautiful. Another covered shopping district. Now, this was Nishiki Market. Fish of every kind. Oh my God, what is that? Octopus on a stick. The kids loved this stuff. They were eating it up. And if you've seen My Octopus Teacher, you don't want to eat a sentient being like an octopus, but yet here it is, for better or for worse. It was delicious. Gyoza, eel, flatfish, snapper, squid. Oh my God, so many octopus, baby octopus and squid. These are huge scallops. Look at that, massive. And here we are at a sacred place. So, boy, we've gone a while, haven't we? I hope this thing is still recording. Who knows? I may have lost it all. But now we're committed. We're going to do this. We're going to see this through the end. Then I got to take my kids for their thing. All right, let's do this. This is actually, you know what? We're going to take a pause here. I'm going to come back another day and we're going to finish from Inari because that way we're fresh. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up for this time and we're going to come back and I'll click in and edit right here. All right, guys, I love you. All right, welcome back to the second half of Japan Trip 23. Basically an old man showing you travel slides about Japan. This part, so the first part of the video, we went through Tokyo, Kyoto, Hakone, Gora. Now we're in Kyoto, finishing up here with temples, food. Then we go to Koyasan, which is an amazing monastery town in the hills with a cemetery that will blow your mind. And then we go to Osaka for food, and views, and then back to Tokyo for TeamLabs, which is a crazy experience. And I want to share it with you guys. So we're going to talk about spirituality, food, culture, and the technical aspects of getting around Japan in 2023. This was during the summer. It was like 100 degrees with 100% humidity, and it was still amazing. The yen is really favorable right now, like 140 yen to the dollar. So just don't even debate. Just go. If you can do it, just go. Do me a favor, comment if you think you know something about this, because I know very little. My pronunciation's terrible, and you can fill us in. So leave a comment, hit like, share the video, subscribe, click the notification bell. That helps the algorithm push this stuff out into the unsuspecting world. All right, with that, on to Kyoto. This is, we'll show you what it is. It is here in Kyoto, and we'll double click on that. Around the outskirts where the hills are the big shrines and temples. And this is one of the most amazing. It is the shrine and temple to Inari, who is a deity or spirit in Shinto, which we talked about in the last video, that is associated with a really interesting character, another little spirit or deity, the fox. And let me show you this. We'll look at this. So this is the entrance to the sort of walk up the hill. It's about a 3 or 6 mile round trip. We ended up walking like 8 miles that day, uphill to the top of the shrine. It's nestled up in the mountains. There's Margaret and I, and you'll see the fox in a second. This is a dragon thing here as you enter, these little water purification things. And here you can get a sense of what the weather was like when we went. So here's some of the shrine. We're walking up into the mountains, and look at that. That is gross. and that is me. And I was wearing like Nike dry fit stuff, and I was still just sweating like a dog. Now, she may be picking her nose. She has the right idea, but I was basically just dripping sweat from my nose. And that's just how it is there. Once you get about halfway up, you get this view of Kyoto, and Kyoto is just all kind of sprawled out here. Now, there's an interesting piece of history about Kyoto. It is sort of the ancient imperial capital of Japan. It has a lot of Japanese history, architecture, relics, and it was spared bombing in World War II, unlike many major Japanese cities. And so a lot of ancient Japan still lives in Kyoto. It has that feel. The famous geisha district is there, the Gion district. All these shrines and temples and architecture and history, it imbues the place. It's very different than Tokyo, which was destroyed entirely and rebuilt. Kyoto is largely untouched. Now, here's an interesting story that one of my supporters actually told me when I shared some of this with our supporter group that subscribes for the $5 a month. They said that Kyoto was it was actually a target of one of the nuclear bombs, not Nagasaki initially. They wanted to target Kyoto because it would make a good example, because the Japanese would be like, oh my God. And the reason, so there were a couple people who may have spared Kyoto from nuclear annihilation. And their rationale was a couple-fold. Is number one, well, this is a cultural center. Even though there's some military industrial stuff was moved there because we didn't bomb it, it's a cultural center. And the second thought was, if you do this to the Japanese people, you destroy their culture and their heritage, they will hate you forever. And it was already clear towards the end of the war that this was going to be an existential conflict between the Soviets and the US, and pushing a country into the Soviet sphere of influence would be a bad idea. So Kyoto was spared nuclear holocaust, which was and when you go to Kyoto, I mean, it'll make you weep, the thought that this could have all been wiped out. And you think about what was lost actually during World War II in general, all the European cultural artifacts, Asian cultural artifacts. I mean, it was a real conflagration, and it really just points to the heights of human delusion, like what humans are capable of doing. It's just awfulness when we believe the story as being real, when we believe in the story of us as a nation or as whatever. It's terrible. All right, anyways, enough of me pontificating. As you start to climb, like here we are getting close to the top, and at the top is the shrine as you walk through this area back here. And here are those fox deities. They're called kitsune. And they guard the shrines, they protect people inside, and they protect the spirit world inside. And the bib is a sign of a kind of a honoring of and power of the fox. The fox can be very old and can have multiple tails, another symbol of its power. And they're really quite imposing characters, and they have a definite feel about them. So when we walked in here, it was clear I was not going to shoot video or take pictures. It was a sacred space, and you could feel it. And the fox was everywhere. And here are the gates, the Inari gates that you walk through. There are hundreds of these red gates and a canopy of trees over it through the forest, and you're walking through, and it's still really hot and it's really challenging. And we saw like elderly Japanese men and women like just hucking up these stairs in the heat, like no problem. And we were huffing and puffing. I mean, again, like it's just a different culture, different diet, different social expectations of activity and connection as you're older. And so the Inari gates, and here's another image of that. Now, here's a great image of a kitsune, the fox deity with the bib on that people put on as offering a sign of power. There's other meanings of the bibs, and you guys can actually put them in the comments if you're Japanese or you know this this aspect. But just a really gorgeous and intimidating image, and you could feel it when you're there. This is interesting too, boars and monkeys all over the place. So, you know, there's signs saying, hey, please don't pet the boars, which I wasn't planning to do, but you know me, if you tell me not to do something, I'm going to do it twice as much. Another image of the gates, and you can see how they just are built right into the forest, right into the mountains, these beautiful maples shading them. It was just it was a gorgeous atmosphere. And here's a little video. Let's see. You can hear those cicadas. Yeah. Sorry, I put the headphones on so I can hear the videos. It was just really atmospheric, and you could feel why this was a sacred spot. And then here is another video we found of a little bath area, shrine purification area guarded by kitsune. Kitsune. Yeah, really, really beautiful. Let's just scroll through that with a little zoom. All of this built into the rock, and these gates are laid as offerings. The red gate, and you can just see how it's just hewn right into this. Now, all these stones had to be carried up by hand. You know, over hundreds of years, the place was built. It's really quite remarkable. Here's a really beautiful image of those kitsune, those fox guardians. Yeah, another one like that. Just look at the detail on these foxes. They're gorgeous. And this is a shrine offering here, covered in moss, all of it natural, water everywhere. Just really get a feel. I mean, this was a sacred spot. You could really feel it when you were there. Here, I don't know what this is. Oh yeah, the lanterns. There's Margaret wandering around. Japanese cedars. And just a pervasive sense of stillness in these places. Even with people going by, the people take on the aspect of the cicadas or the insects, the sounds that people make. It's still just part of this natural expression, and there's an underlying deep stillness, and you can really feel into why that place really resonates with that. It's pretty remarkable. Here's another example of that fox and this beautiful statue that flows water from it. This was another really beautiful place off the beaten path, guarded by these bullfrogs. We showed you in the first video, the bullfrog deity. Really beautiful spot. And then, so once we got back, we were exhausted, and we came down to Kyoto, and it was the beginning of the Gion Festival. Now, the Gion Festival it dates back a long, long time. In fact, I think I can show you here. In the 1920s, the same festival with a pine tree on a float with wheels, people chanting and marching through the streets. This was Kyoto back in the day. Again, spared the bombing in World War II, so we can still experience this. And here it was modern day. We were able to catch some of it. The pine represents longevity because it's evergreen. And so it represents that kind of longevity. And again, you can see Japanese lining up to take pictures. This was before the festival began. They were setting up the floats. And here's a video where we might hear some of the action. Whoops, sorry. My bad. Let me fix that. I was trying to zoom in. pine tree and a bird. I think that bird is fabricated, but it's pretty remarkable. And then we found this right next door as the festival was gearing up. We found this little yakisoba restaurant. So yakisoba, get a feel. Yakisoba is these noodles that they fry up on this grill. And there's a grill at where you sit as well. And so you can get a sense of how smoky and wonderful it is in there. It just smells amazing. You can see the air conditioner blowing condensation out. It was such a cool vibe. Now check this out. You might freak out when you see this, but this is pork tongue grilled up on that grill, and they put it on, it's salted up with these scallions, and they put it on foil on the grill in front of the table that's at your table to keep it hot. And it was so good. My daughter was skeptical, but she loved it. And my older daughter showed up a little later. She was at the hotel and she walked back to meet us and thought it was just the best thing she's had. And here's the yakisoba. And you can see those bonito flakes, that shaved tuna fish that I talked about in the other video or earlier, and pickled vegetables, cabbage, the noodles themselves, all stir fried. They pour them on the grill and then you stir them up and put them on your plate.
Oh yeah. Mimi, this was technically yours. In the pictures, they look so small.
I'm not sure what we've done.
So good, you guys. And this was outside. They had family members kind of busking for attention, like calling out in Japanese for people in the festival to come and try the yakisoba, the whiskey soda. Okonomiyaki is a kind of a special omelet with egg and noodles in it and vegetables. It's a specialty of Osaka, actually, but they have it in other cities as well. We had it here as well. So you can see here they are actually making, let me see if I can zoom in on this. For some reason, it's not working. There we go. You can see them making okonomiyaki. So it's like a pancake almost with egg and noodles and cabbage. Really, really good. Let's see if this thing will go live. There it is. You just kind of get a sense of how they make this. And this is what it looks like on our table. They put a special sauce on it that's kind of sweet and savory. There's those bonito flakes. You can see the egg and the green onions in there and the onions and the cabbage. So good. This was a fried rice. So again, those pickled vegetables add a real tang and a flavor to it. Every grain of rice is separate. Like the Japanese just know how to do rice. It's not soggy or mushy. And then those green onions, the bonito flakes. Let's see if we can get it to... Sorry. Yeah, look at that smoking. Look how the bonito flakes kind of wiggle and they almost look like they're alive again. And there's Maya getting some.
This for that then.
So you have your own
What you got
scoop.
there, girl?
Nina showed up.
What do I even do?
We're gonna do some mukbang, dude. You gotta eat it hot.
Yeah, I mean, it is so delicious, you guys, and so much fun to do. All right, speaking of fun, so that was dinner in Kyoto, and there's going to be more of the Gion Festival in a second. The next day we did a day trip, and it's a train ride. You take a limited express train out to Nara, which is south of Kyoto, and I will show you on the map right now. Nara is here, so if we zoom out, here's Kyoto, where we were. This was the kind of Inari gates and temples. This was Nanzen-ji, where we were earlier. We were eating somewhere here south of the Imperial Palace, right here where our hotel was. Gion Festival was here. And then we took a train down to Nara. Nara is known for many things. It has one of the biggest wooden, or the biggest wooden structure in the world. In Nara Park. And it's also known as we get to Nara Park. So that temple is the Todaiji Temple. I think I said that right. We're going to get to that. But here is what's kind of remarkable. In Japan, the deer in this park are friendly. They are conditioned to bow to you to get treats, and they're considered sacred. And so the girls wanted to come here more than anything in all of Japan, and they were not disappointed. Check this out. He's bowing to you, Boo. He realized you don't have food and he's out. No, Mom's getting it. Yeah, it's nuts. They are so adorable, but they're also really aggressive because they're used to being fed. And so they do this thing where they bow and then you feed them these snacks that you can buy. And if you have the snacks and it's early in the day, these deer have a lot of energy. Check this out. So here's Margaret giving them snacks.
Okay.
I'm so many there are. Okay.
It gets pretty intense. Each of us got bit on the ass multiple times. It doesn't hurt too much, but it definitely leaves a stain on your pants because they have their mouth is all full of food and they're just real aggressive in the morning. But then as things chill out over the course of the day, they become much more friendly and you end up just chilling out with them. Like this was one of the older males and you can just see how he just gives off this kind of wisdom. And the kids and I fell in love with this male and he was so chill. He didn't even want food. He just wanted to hang out. And he would just chill out, do selfies. It was great, man. It was thug life with this guy. He was really, really special actually. And then you would just see them in the river there, just being Bambi. It was really a great experience for the kids. Really, really cool to see that kind of nature interacting with humans. And then here was that Todaiji Temple, largest wooden structure in the world. This is like a skyscraper tall. You can see the humans for scale. Let's just show you. So there's a tall, American. And here's the building made entirely of wood in ancient times. And it's just nuts. And now remember, inside this building are Buddhas, statues of Buddhas that are like this big, all right? When I show you the pictures, you won't understand the scale unless I show you this right now, where here's a dude, here's the Buddha sculpture, all right? So let's take a look. Here you go. This is with a wide angle lens. My daughter Maya took this picture. Here's Kannon, the Bodhisattva of compassion, and here's Buddha, or maybe vice versa, I forget. And these are so big, they're almost to the top of that wooden structure. They are massive. You can't believe it. The mind cannot even wrap its head around it when you see it. It's that nuts. There's a good example of scale of just one of these warriors, all carved out of wood. You can't even imagine how they did this in ancient times and got it in here. I mean, look at this thing. And there's the main Buddha. And the size of this thing, like a human would be standing like this. It's crazy. There's Kannon, the Bodhisattva of compassion. This is my favorite character actually in Buddhism because sometimes he's depicted as a female, but originally male. He's sort of Buddha's right-hand dude and forgoes full enlightenment in order to dedicate himself to the awakening of all sentient beings and plays a key role in the Heart Sutra, which talks about the empty nature of everything and explains to Shariputra, who's another character in a lot of these sutras, kind of what really is the nature of this. Like everything else can fall away, but there really isn't anything happening of any true nature, which is the deepest of truths. That's why they call it the Heart Sutra. It's the heart of everything. These kind of places have a resonance for me in particular because I know the stories and the kind of what Buddhism is pointing at. Buddhism is another story. It's another dream story told by dream characters to other dream characters in the hope that they'll wake up from the dream. So it's a little paradoxical because what Buddhism is pointing at is so beyond story, beyond concept, beyond the dream, that you can only get at it through poetry and through stories that point in the direction. And if you're looking at the story, you're not looking in the direction that it's pointing because that's beyond the mind. And these kind of places feel like they embody that spirit of that. You can feel the empty nature of reality when you step into these places that are so, in a way, overwrought by human hands. It's very paradoxical, which means you're on the right path when you're encountering paradox. So then we got back to Kyoto for the evening, and the festival was in full swing. There's that bird in the tree. And while we were waiting for the festival to kick off, we stopped by we just ducked into a hole in the wall, random sushi restaurant. Let's see if we can find the name here. So, our hotel was around here, the Ace Hotel, and we just wandered down one of these little alleys. Here's the Imperial, this is a park. Sorry, this is where there's a castle, which we had gone to, and I actually showed you that castle earlier. And let's see if we can find the name of this restaurant. Maybe it'll tell us. Oh, it's in Japanese. So if you can read Japanese, this was the random sushi restaurant we plopped into where they spoke not a word of English. So it was very difficult to order. They had an English menu, but it was very confusing. So we just ended up ordering a bunch of stuff, which is usually the right answer. And in this case, it was. And so the first dish that came was this incredible, complimentary appetizer that I don't know if we can actually see it right. But it's like fish, vegetables in a cold broth. The kids really didn't like it, but I thought it was super refreshing, especially on a hot day, and really unique. The guy who owned the restaurant was probably in his 40s and was kind of a cool dude. He had this old Pioneer stereo, from the 70s. My dad had this stereo and all this vinyl and was playing vinyl, and it was really cool. And you have all these sake glasses up here. Had a great atmosphere and a vibe. Here's the kitchen. Wonder if we can see it a little bit in action. This is the charcoal grill where they grill skewers and things like that. This was one of our first dishes. It was a chicken liver, and let me see if I can get it to. It looks crazy, right? Like chicken liver. It was so good. It tasted like pate, like foie gras, but it was just standard chicken liver. It was so delicious. Now, this was the sashimi plate we ordered, and you can get a sense of just the presentation of this. This is octopus, raw. These are radishes. This is that fresh wasabi. This is wasabi, I should say. Some kind of amberjack, I think. Tuna. This was raw squid, I think. And I forget what these fishes are, actually. It was beyond delicious. This was a grilled tile fish, which I'd never heard of. And it had a lot of bones, but it was so perfectly seasoned with salt and charcoal smoke. Really, really, really fantastic. And this is their Chinese fried rice. It had Chinese sausage in it, egg. Unbelievable. And again, if you notice how the Japanese do it, just every rice grain is distinct. This was what the check looked like. So we had no idea what was going on. And it was funny. So a funny story. So as we were sitting here, it was basically just the chef and this guy. And this dude was the waiter, and I think it was the chef's son. And so we were sitting in it. He didn't speak any English, and so there was this misunderstanding because in Japan, and there are not many guests here, just like us and another couple. In Japan, if you don't ask for the check, they don't bring it. You sit as long as you want. So he kept coming and asking us for more drinks, and we're like, why do they keep pushing drinks? Well, because we hadn't asked for the check. And so this kept going, and there was a dish we ordered, this wild boar that never came, and we're like, what the heck? So we're just waiting there, waiting for the wild boar, and like half an hour goes by, and he's keeping asking us for drinks, and we're like, what's happening? So finally, I pulled out Google Translate, and I was like, I was just wondering if the wild boar was going to come, and the kid goes, huh? And he's like, oh, and he writes back on the thing, he's like, I totally forgot to enter that. I charged you for it, but I didn't enter it into the thing, so it didn't get made. It'll take 30 minutes. And I'm like, no, we'd like to go. That's okay. And so then there was all this awkwardness about like the chef came out and he was like trying to remove it from our bill. And in the end, we were just laughing. All of us were laughing about just how funny it was that none of us could speak each other's language, but still we somehow figured it out. And I told him, all I said was oishi, which is like delicious. And he got the message. Like all of it was so good. It didn't matter. Like the little cultural like confusion didn't matter at all, but it was a lot of fun. So that's the thing. You got to go up and pay or ask for the check directly. And you usually go up. They often don't bring it to the table. It's not always that case, but that's the more traditional places are like that. So there we were at that restaurant, and now night has fallen and the festival is in full swing. And you can see these lanterns start to light up. And it's just this gorgeous display. My kids were really tired of it, so they went back to the hotel. And so it was just me and Margaret wandering with the throng of people in these narrow alleys watching this happen. Let me see if I can get a good zoom on this so it looks a little better and play it for you. This little thing breaks off and starts marching, and you can see it start to happen here. Following, and it just goes through the streets, and people are following, dressed in these kimonos, and let's see if we can kick it off here. Yeah, there they go. And here I am, like trying not to get trampled and just blown away by the whole thing. And then we caught up with them. There's Margaret. And what's crazy is they close off the streets. So you have this major city here, and they close off the streets for this festival and open it just to pedestrian traffic, and there's cops kind of guiding everything. It was such a trip. Here's like a more, let's see if this will load. It's a closer up scene of that. Pretty freaking cool experience. We were so lucky to catch that, the Gion Festival. It was just pure serendipity that we were there at the same time that this once a year festival happens. Summer is festival season in Japan, even though it's hot. It's a thing. So finish up with Kyoto. Really, we're sad to leave Kyoto because it was special. It was really beautiful. And then we got on another bullet train going down to Osaka Station. So here we are, and you can get a sense of the speed of that train as it's taken off from the station. It just hauls ass, you guys. It is so fast. And we were actually heading, so this was interesting. So here's the countryside going by. You can kind of get a sense. This is a different train now. Now we're on a limited express train going up to Koyasan. And you can kind of get a sense of where we're going. So let's scroll out. This is where we were on the train. Kyoto's up here. We talked about Nara with the deer. Take the train down, and it goes down here, and then we're going to end up in a place called, let's see if we can, we'll have to find it in a different thing here. Hold on. A place called Koyasan, and it's a mountain monastery community. And you can kind of get a sense now of how things are changing as the train gets up here. There's just beautiful mountain landscape. And then we ended up on a cable car that goes up directly up the hill, like a Swiss-style cable car. Right up the mountain. And we ended up in Koyasan. Now let's see if it'll show us a map. There we go. So Koyasan is here in the mountains. And just to give you a full perspective of where we are, this part of Japan. So we were in Tokyo, then Hakone, then Kyoto. We went through Osaka and past Nara into Koyasan. And this was probably my favorite part of the trip because I'm a spirituality nerd, and this place had it all. There's Margaret sitting at the bus stop for our bus transfer to our inn, our Ryokan, which was really just a monastery. We stayed in a monastery. This is it. It's called Shojoshin. Let's see if it actually shows it on the map. Here we go. Does it? Doesn't show it. That's too bad. But the monastery was unbelievable. Like, look at, this is the bridge to the cemetery across the street from the monastery, which we're going to talk about. And this is the monastery itself, the monastery grounds. Just stunning. And it's a sect of Buddhism called Shingon. It's called an esoteric school of Buddhism, meaning hidden, meaning the truth is hidden kind of in plain sight. And the goal of the practice is to unveil that truth. The clarity and nature of mind is hidden in many ways by our delusional thoughts. And so unhiding those. And the Shingon sect uses a lot of chanting, sutras and prayers in order to put you in a state that actually shows truth. So just across the street, before we could check into the monastery, there was a random cafeteria. And even this random cafeteria food was unbelievable. Like, this was just a bunch of tourists were there from around Japan, and this was a vegetarian meal. And I'll tell you, something about this rice was imbued with little bits of egg and chicken broth. It was so delicious. And these were all kinds of different pickled vegetables. This is tofu, vegetable noodles, a rice ball, a mochi flour rice dessert, and more pickles. Oh God, it was so good. And now this is the monastery. And you can see these smooth from hundreds of years of walking wooden boards, and just how it's all laid up Japanese style with these doors that open. Let me see if I can zoom in. These doors that slide open into individual rooms, it's all open here. You can slide these doors closed. The beautiful floors. The outside grounds are like a manicured Zen garden. And now listen to this. This is key. You got to listen here. These floors are called nightingale floors. And the reason is they squeak in a certain way when you walk by. And it makes these beautiful sounds like that of a nightingale. And it was often said that it was used so that you could detect intruders too when they're walking up. Isn't that cool? You can just kind of hear, I'm wearing these slippers they give you because it's really shoes off. Neat. And here's just a video of what it's like there in that monastery. So this pine tree, that particular pine was apparently planted by the Crown Prince of Sweden over 100 years ago when he came to stay at this monastery. And so that was a piece of history we learned afterwards. The monastery itself serves only vegetarian food, and it was the best, one of the best meals that I had actually. All these beautiful pickled vegetables, this soup, which was indescribable. I don't even know how to begin describing it. This, which is on like a little sterno heater. So it's boiling and bubbling. I'll show you that. And these are desserts like this sweet watermelon, these mochi rice cakes. The kids did not like this, but I loved it. Let's see if we can get it to, you see it bubbling there? And you can see the kind of sterno underneath kind of bubbling right here. Play it again. So amazing. There's a close-up of some of this food, and you can really get a sense. There's the desserts and the watermelon. And this piece. Now, what's crazy here is you see how this is boiling red? This is a piece of paper. I'm serious. It's paper. So why doesn't it burn? Because the soup actually keeps it moist. So it's constantly evaporating and concentrating the soup from the bottom, and it's keeping the paper from burning. And so when you run it, you can see how the flame is just flickering with the moisture. It's really quite ingenious and beautiful and delicious. By the way, this little bit right here is key. It was like a kind of a soybean paste maybe. It added so much flavor. Otherwise, they were a little bland, so you add just a little touch of that and it just lights it up with flavor. And here I am in front of the temple aspect of the monastery, which was closed until the services started. And again, I said this in the previous part of the video, or the previous video, you can see like when I feel that kind of presence, you can kind of see it. It's a kind of a radiance that happens, and it was definitely there. And now, speaking of crazy, so the next part here is the Okonuin. Hold on, let me see if I can show you this. It's the cemetery that is Japan's biggest cemetery. And it was just one of the most remarkable places. Here it is on the map. And of course, it's in Japanese, so hard to see, but it's Okonuin, I think is how you say it. And it's this massive cemetery outside of the outskirts of town in Koyasan. Really unbelievable place. And part of what made it unbelievable is it was built right into this forest of ancient Japanese cedars. These cedar trees are hundreds of years old, and they are just absolutely beautiful and majestic trees. And they're right smack in the middle of the cemetery. And let me see if I can do this. So that night we had a guide named Nori, and he was a Shingon monk from one of the nearby monasteries. And he took us on an evening, early night tour of the cemetery. And the minute I met this guy, I was like, okay, this is my guy. So I just talked to him briefly, and he could tell. He was like, oh, this dude's into it. Like, this fellow bald dude is into what I'm saying. And he did the English tour. So there was a group of like 20 or 30 of us walking through the cemetery with him. And anytime he wasn't talking to the group, he would talk to me and tell me about kind of, because I told him, oh, I'm kind of into Zen and, you know, this kind of realization path. And he was like, oh my gosh. He's like, I wait entire months before I find somebody who's really deeply interested. And so he was telling me all this cool stuff. And apparently, so these tombs, what they represent are the different aspects of reality and form and formlessness. So there's earth is represented by the cube here, and water is represented by this globe. Fire is represented by this crown-like structure. And this is air over here. And this represents space. So kind of outer space, the heavens. And so you have all this stuff. And then he takes his light and he points up to above that, to emptiness. And he asks the crowd, he's like, so what's this? And people are like, huh? And he says, this is reality. This is emptiness. This is consciousness. This is awareness. This is presence. This is shunyata. And I tell you, you could tell people in the crowd were like, okay, now I get it. It was really cool, really cool. The form and the formless being not two, all one spectrum. And it's represented in the tombs. He also taught us that in these tombs, they don't put all the ashes, because people are cremated typically. So it's not bodies here. They put the ashes of the second cervical vertebrae, C2, because it looks like hands held in meditation. And so they put the C2 vertebrae ashes, that's what they entomb in these tombs. And I thought that was so interesting. So here was Nori, and here is walking through the cemetery in the evening. There are lanterns everywhere. There's this beautiful path. And we took some pictures, but they don't really show up well because you're using a flash. I'll show you some better stuff. And here's a particular shrine. And then we came home. So, okay, listen. We're not done with the cemetery. We came home because that was the tour that night, and you could not take pictures of the final temple where the founder of the cemetery, the town, the monasteries, and this particular sect of Buddhism, Shingon, named Kobadaishi, is enshrined. It's felt that he it was funny, on the last day of his life, he carved a wood carving of himself, a kind of a selfie, and he gave it to the monastery. It's in the monastery we stayed in. And he's like, yo, took his selfie, handed it to them, and he's like, I'm out. And he goes up into the temple at the top of the cemetery and enters a deep samadhi. This is by legend, a meditation. And they call it eternal meditation. And so by legend, a monk 82 years later or something entered those chambers and found Kobadashi still in meditation, and his beard had grown really long, and so he trims the beard and he leaves him there. And so apparently not another human soul has entered that space, this is what the monk told us, since that time. And so Kobadashi is felt still to be meditating there in this shrine, and it stays closed behind the main temple. And so that's the kind of vibe here. Really, really something. And as we got home, we found this wonderful spider where we were staying because it's right in nature. And so this is what happened. I couldn't sleep because all I could do was feel the vibe of this place. And so I woke up at like 3 a.m. and I'm like, I'm creaking through the monastery. It's a communal bathroom in this monastery. So you don't have your own bathroom. You all four of us stayed in the same room. And then you go into this kind of communal space. There's a communal bath as well, which I didn't do. I was like, I can skip a shower or a bath for one day. And got up at 3 and walked into the cemetery. And it looked like this. There was not another living soul there. And because I'm using a very sensitive iPhone, it's picking up some of the beginning of a sunrise that's going to happen at like 4:45. And you can just get a vibe of what this place is. Really otherworldly, just intense stillness. You don't even hear birds at this hour. It's just dead quiet. Like the cedars all around envelop it in a kind of silence where you can't hear a thing. One of the shrines there. And then I just turned the camera up to see I think Venus was out and the sun's starting to peek out, still not sunrise. Those tops of the Japanese cedars. More of the path. And this cemetery is so big, it took me an hour to get through the whole thing, just walking through the path. Here's an example of one of these ancient Japanese cedars covered in moss, built right into the cemetery. I mean, the cemetery was built right around it, and they're protected by the Japanese government. They're conserved. Each of them has a number. Here's a great picture of one. So these things have a presence of their own, and you can just feel it when you walk by. They're so old. It feels like walking through the sequoia forests in Northern California. And then these just beautiful statues covered in moss. Just the level of detail, and as the lichen starts to eat away at it over the years, and he almost has hair made of moss at this point, and those bibs, those little sacred offerings that we see. Sunrise is starting to happen over the cemetery. Again, just really there's no words for what it was like actually being there. I felt bad even taking pictures, but I knew I kind of wanted to share whatever was there, including with my family because they were all asleep. Okay, so here we released this separately, but this is worth watching some of. This was the cemetery around, let me see when it was that I took this. Let's see if it'll give me info on this. Hang on. 4:52 a.m. This is what it's like. And apparently these lanterns with the moons on them, Nori told me that the moons represent the mind in this sect of Buddhism, where a full moon is a clear, brilliant illumination. And yet the mind itself has phases, it has thoughts, it has appearances, it has struggles. So you have the phases of the moon, but in reality, it's all just moon. It's all just mind. It's all just clarity. It's all just presence. And so each of these lanterns has a different moon phase on it to represent that. You can hear the birds and the silence simultaneously. Ah, these. These we've talked about in the previous part of the video, Jizo, the sort of deity that protects mothers and infants. And so you see the hand-knit bibs and aprons that represent that. And the offerings of pine, which means longevity. The reason they do offerings of pine here instead of flowers is that it often snows in the winter and they can't get flowers. So they use pine to represent longevity and long life. There's those different phases of the moon on the lanterns you can see. Now, notice the corporate logo and the new appearing shrine here. What's going on there? So what that is it turns out in Japan, Nori told us this as well, corporations would actually see their employees, especially in the older days, as family. And so they would purchase plots here to enshrine and celebrate employees who had passed away. And so even in the corporate culture of Japan, this is considered quite sacred. Really, really interesting. So there's Sanki. I saw Panasonic as well. And there's this beautiful river right here. And another corporate logo. So this full video is actually on YouTube. It's like Koya-san Sound and Visual Meditation. So you can watch the whole 5-minute video there. But this was probably the absolute clear highlight for me because I'm weird and I love this stuff. But yeah, just loved it. And here's another example of those corporate tombs. There's Nissan celebrating this and memorializing. And here's another just quick view of what these monuments are like. There's another Jizo, just a beautiful image. And again, kind of walking through the more central part. This one is not on YouTube. The more central part of the cemetery is here. Yeah, really an otherworldly type of experience. These huge cedars. Covered in moss. Oh, man. It's making me making me kind of sad because I honestly flirted with the idea of just dropping everything and becoming a monk and just living there, especially talking to Nori. So finishing my conversation with him after the tour was over, he and I and my wife hung out, and he could tell my wife was like, radiating whatever that is. And he said, he taught us more about this, and he said his dream, because he felt that Japanese youth had lost touch with this, and his dream was to try to get them excited about it again. That's why he did tours and stuff like that. And he said his other dream, which I thought was so fascinating, was to start a rice crust pizza parlor in Koyasan because the monks are not celibate. He had a wife and a child, and they run businesses, they do things, but they're also monks. Again, it's all just kind of seamlessly integrated. That's why I was like, I could do this. This would be all right. I could do my show and be a monk, but it's not going to happen. But it was just so beautiful. And he said, we both started to kind of tear up at the end because we were like, this was so special. And he was like, you've really made my month, because just seeing how you guys are so engaged with this and you really get it. And you could tell the other people on the tour really could feel it too, It's a beautiful thing when that transmission happens. So what's next? The cable car back down, because now we're going to go to Osaka. So here we are. We got on early before it got crowded so we could get a good seat. And here it is going down the mountain. Just a beautiful mountainside. Maples and cedars. Gorgeous. And then we're in Osaka. And Osaka is very different, has a totally different vibe. This was from our hotel room. It is really all about food. And people in Osaka, according to our guide, who is from Osaka, are much more open and extroverted by as a rule. And so it was just a fun, totally different vibe. So here we are, like exploring the little alleys full of different restaurants. Everything's just lit up with food. Let me see if I can zoom in. You can get a good sense of just the vibe over here. And then we found a sushi place, of course, because we love the sushi. And look at these chunks of tuna, man. They were massive. And this is a shrimp head grilled up, really good tempura. This was the actual shrimp itself. And it's called amaibi. And so this is a specialty of Osaka. It is puffer fish. Puffer fish. So if you guys remember that old Simpsons episode where Homer Simpson tries sushi for the first time and he falls in love with it and he orders everything on the menu and he says, I want bat. He's like, and the chef was like, very dangerous, Mr. Simpson. Puffer fish, if I'm remembering correctly, there's a gland in the fish that has tetrodotoxin, which is a paralytic that can kill you. It's a poison. And if you cut it wrong, that you rupture that gland, the tetrodotoxin can get into the fish. I'm doing all this from memory. I have no idea if this is true. Google it and make sure I'm not lying to you. It can get into the fish and kill you. So this is actually a dangerous dish if you don't know how to prepare it. You can die. So of course I knew this and I was like, we're having that. And so we had puffer fish and here it was. It was really good. It was like a delicious white fish, and it's a little bland in itself, so it comes with these different pickles and things that you have with it, and it was delightful. And nobody died that I know of yet. Here's the family enjoying it. Let's see. There it is. Look at all that food. Their seared stuff was really good. I don't know what fish this is, but it was delicious. Ikura, which is salmon roe, salmon egg. And this is the big reveal of a fish stew. Savory and delicious. Okay, this was weird. I don't know what to think about this. These are little octopus or squid actually. They're squid that are stuffed with this spicy paste. It was really overwhelming, like a bit much.
thought you were saying
The kids
under the
really
nose
didn't like
shot
it. They wanted to puke, but I ended up eating the whole thing because, science. I enjoyed it, but it was weird. And here's, by the way, because you order online, I took screenshots. So Flying Fish Row, you can see kind of what the prices are. So let's say 2-piece sardine, 180 yen. That's like $1.40, $1.30, because there's about 140 yen to the dollar. $1.20, something like that. And I'm bad at math. And the miso soup with sea bream, that was that fish stew, was 450 yen. So like $3 and something. Really affordable at the current exchange rates. The sea urchin sushi, which is a fancy sea urchin, was the equivalent of about $10. So really not bad. And here's some more stuff that we ordered. We ordered a lot. Spicy cod roe. You can get a sense of the kind of stuff we get. Really delicious. And there's Nina outside getting that happening. And there's Maya. I think Maya's she looks like an angry chef. And here they are in their room in Osaka, sharing a room and a bed. And this is kind of the sense of how compact these rooms are. This is a wide angle lens on the iPhone. And these are tiny rooms. The real estate is a real premium in Japan. So the majority of your budget is going to go to lodging expenses. And speaking of which, so we get the free breakfast as part of the hotel. It's on the highest level of the skyscraper. They're growing their own vegetables for use hydroponically, for use in the breakfast. It's really quite awesome. And here was what the scene looked like for breakfast.
Pretty good.
This hotel was called the Swissotel in Osaka, and it has this panoramic view. Great hotel. The food was okay, not great at the Swissotel. It's better in the rest of Osaka. This was the breakfast. It was a Japanese breakfast. Just not as good as some of the other stuff we've had, but still pretty delicious. And here's the subway system in Osaka, so you can kind of get a sense of how these things work. Dotonbori is the area with all the restaurants where we were located. Amerikamura is actually a little America Town. It's really funny. We didn't go there. And we went to some of these fish markets and different things, these shopping. We did go to Osaka Castle, which you're going to see in a second. This is Osaka Castle. Pretty remarkable. Like, bad guys could not
Osaka
get across
Castle.
this moat easily without being noticed.
Surrounded by a big moat.
And here's me and my daughter for scale. There's Osaka Castle. It is massive. It is like a skyscraper. You can't believe they built this in ancient times. And the gardens around it are just really stunning. Beautiful garden. Now, it was really hot, you guys. You can see this is all sweat. We are hot. And they have a little elevator for people who can't climb all the stairs. It's a fortress. Look at these stones. So every one of these stones was brought from inland sea Japan and by hand. And this is a smaller stone. There were actually stones that were so big you couldn't believe that humans moved them that distance. Pretty remarkable. And then the kids found this pancake place called Graham, which apparently is a chain. And they were beside themselves. Each layer had different fillings. And so these are the sweet layers. And then you get to they were beyond, look at that. And it had air conditioning, which was key. So we had to duck in here after the castle. Here is the bottom layer. It's a custard with an egg in it. And it's actually savory, not sweet. It was really good. Really, really good. Here's the name of the restaurant and the kind of bad English translation that they've put on here. It is soft and fluffy, melting in your tongue. I don't know if I want anything to melt in my tongue, but that's okay. Please have a precious time with Graham's pancake. It's like they use Google Translate or something. It did make us happy though. Then we went to this building, which is called Umeda Sky Building here in Osaka. And this building is known, like Japanese go on dates at the top at the observation tower because it's this super cool kind of romantic way to see all of Osaka, because here you are and you have a view panoramic of the city and also the bay here, and it's just really gorgeous. So let's take a look. So you see these? We're going to be going up these escalators. If you have vertigo, you're kind of screwed right here. Hold on. So here's some video. Going straight up to the top. Yeah, no joke. That was trippy. Like, you feel like, oh my God, I could just fall right through this. And you've seen it from the ground. You're like, what are those things? And then you're in them going, what? And here was the reveal when you get to the top. You find, not the very top, but the second to top level.
I wasn't expecting that.
You weren't expecting, let me see. Whoa. Mirrors on the ceiling, lanterns everywhere. And this ridiculous view. There's me, my bald head. In the city. And my daughter took this picture of me. She's a very good photographer, Maya, of me standing there. And here's another shot where you can kind of get a sense of how disorienting it is. There's mirrors everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. There.
And we ended up. Let's get to it. Cut. There's the family.
Come here, watch. Come here. Okay, everybody, look at that. It's us in both. That's a video. Now,
the kids were not impressed with my dad maneuvers. Yeah, there it is. There's the selfie. Oh yeah, there we are. Oh, that's a nice family shot. And there's the view from the top. I mean, it's crazy. Really gorgeous views of Osaka. And here we were going out onto the sky observation. This is at the very top. Crazy. There's those escalators. And just a panoramic view. Such a cool place. My wife was yelling at me because I was wearing my hat, and apparently you're not allowed to because they blow off all the time. There's the river, actually. So for orientation, let's take a look. You're looking this way across the bridges of the river from the Sky Building, and your panoramic view is all around there. So yeah, there's that river. Isn't that cool? And there we are. Ah, this was a cool picture. We were having such a good time. Oh, look at this. My wife went on the other end of the observation platform and was like, you guys stand over there. And there we are, looking awkward. Yeah, there are those escalators. You can see that you're in this tube. It's kind of claustrophobic, actually, and very, if you have fear of heights, ew. Let's see. Yeah, you can see people moving. And then we went back on the street. Now, this is Dotonbori district where the food is and the big billboards and stuff. Just a really trippy vibe. A lot of stimulation. Very different than Kyoto or Koyasan. Oh, this was a cool, like, let's see. You got these crazy signs for these restaurants. Yeah. Kind of neat. And then you got this guy. He just looks scary, man. Look at that. Apparently it's a famous restaurant. Okay, speaking of restaurants. So this, Kura, this place, one of our favorite places because it's a conveyor belt sushi restaurant. Now they have these around the world and in the US. I've been to them, but they're nothing like in Japan. Everything is automated. You order from a machine and the stuff shoots to your table. And there's a constant conveyor belt of sushi going by. You each get a booth. I'll show you. This was so much fun, and the sushi was really good. And the entire bill for the four of us, and we ate like pigs, came to $50 US. It was nuts. And by the way, no tip in Japan. So 50 inclusive of everything. Check this out. This is what it looks like from the hall, and you each get a booth that's kind of semi-private. And then you go in, and it's like this. Oh, conveyor belt sushi. And you're charged by the plate. So you put your plates down this little doohickey when you're done, and it counts them. You like? I'm gonna go use the bathroom. So I just wanted to see what the rest of this place was like. And you can see the staff just cleaning up dishes and stuff. Everybody's in their little stall. It's all numbered so they know how to bill for it. This is the waiting room because it's so popular, but we had reservations. And you get near to where the bathroom is. So that's the little tour of that. This is the fish. Like, man, this was a tuna, seared tuna with ginger on top. I don't know what this was, but it had raw egg in it, or semi-raw egg. It was good. This was a fatty tuna. Oh man, so good. Let's see what this is. Oh, this is us trying to catch the
Conveyor
stuff.
belt sushi. Shoot! There goes a special.
Somebody's
order.
order goes shooting by.
Oh my God,
You can see the chefs in there. Check it out. She sees me though. She's like,
conveyor
what?
belt, and then we can. The chef was looking back at me like.
My kids were so embarrassed.
Look, you can order all these things. Oh, dude.
So you order on this iPad thing, and that's when it sends you stuff that's like pre-made, or made to order. And this is the stuff that you can just grab. You just grab it with your paws.
All right.
And eat it. Oh man, this stuff was so good. This is chicken karage, the fried chicken. And then we went to the fish market, which is this. I mean, it's just crazy fish. So remember we were talking about the puffer fish. Here he is.
Oh,
That's the puffer fish.
He looks special. Look at these guys. Oh,
And there's the sashimi, puffer fish sashimi. So this guy, that's what we ate the other night. It's an Osaka specialty. Again, tetrodotoxin. The famous Kobe beef, which we did not get to try. We had Wagyu. Okay, now this is particularly fun because you're looking at really delicious food, right? Wrong. We were taken into the district that serves the restaurants, that actually makes the stuff to help the restaurants run, like commercial equipment. And some of that commercial equipment are fake food that they put in their doorways so people can see what's there to eat. And this stuff looks so real, we were fooled. So check this out. See if you would get fooled. This is shave ice. And it's got prices. This is the prices for the fake shave ice. And it's pretty freaking remarkable. I mean, let me zoom in on this. Like, that would be hard to figure out. And there's more. This is an orange in a bag. Look at that. Like, they are crushing it. Yeah, I mean, this looks so real, you guys. And it's a memo holder. So you can put a little memo in it. I don't know who has memos anymore, but yeah, it's crazy. And these are fake ice cream. Like, what? Matcha ice cream? It looks legit. And these are takoyaki, which are octopus balls. These looked a lot more fake to me, but, you know, who's counting? And there's the store, so you can get a sense of all the cool stuff, all the fake food. There's like fish and crab. There's the stuff we were looking at, fake sushi. And then it's sunset in Osaka. There's my bald head contemplating the nature of reality after a crazy day. So that was Osaka. And then at night in Osaka is when it really lights up and all the restaurants are going, and it's just a wonderful vibe. Osaka at night.
There's more takoyaki there.
There's takoyaki, those octopus balls I was telling you about. Oh, dude, wait, was that dude just grabbing his... He was! I better not show that for too long. I'll get sued by somebody. Then we found the next day we went to the fish market in town. Actually, no, sorry. My bad. Then we went back to Tokyo. We took a bullet train back to Tokyo because now we're getting ready to go home. So it was a half a day in Tokyo, then a full day in Tokyo where we went to TeamLabs and then went home the next evening. So we found in the fish market in Tokyo a little restaurant, and this is where we were in Tokyo. I think it's called the Outer Fish Market, Tsukiji Fish Market. And you can kind of get a sense of where it is relative to everything when we pan out. So there we are in Tokyo near the ocean. And this place was a trip. It was really kind of geared to tourists. So that was a little disappointing. We couldn't enter the real fish market because it was closed. But we found this little funny hole in the wall sushi place. And let's see if we can get it to... And they treated us like we were the only customers there because it was early. And so she came out and we ordered some sake. We had no idea what we were ordering. We just pointed at stuff on the Japanese menu. I didn't even use Google Translate. I just wanted to just get whatever. And out she came with this massive bottle of sake. This sake is called nigiri, which is an unfiltered sake. Sake is rice wine. So this has bits of rice in it. It's sweeter, so it's less dry than some sake. And it's really creamy. And here's the sushi. So salmon roe, tuna, over a bed of rice, wasabi fresh. And this was a grilled something or other. We had no idea what we were eating, but it was delicious. And this was that sake. You can kind of see they overflow it and drink the whole thing. It was so good. And then we had matcha ice cream afterwards, that ground fresh chlorophyll heavy tea that the Japanese are known for. And right here, finally, I got to have my takoyaki, the octopus balls that are battered with bits of octopus and seasoning in them. And you could see the guys making them. They have a special machine that's heated with the gas fire underneath. And they put the octopus in, and then they pour a batter on top with all the seasoning and vegetables. And as it cooks, they flip them and they form little spheres like this.
Fold it into the thing and they turn it around so then it solidifies.
It's really cool. Let's just back up and look at that again. He flips each one individually. It's incredibly hot. And then this one, it's the same thing. And once he flips it, it becomes like a semi-sphere, and the goo forms the second part of the sphere, and it becomes a ball. And it looks like this when it's done. And this was hot, crispy on the outside, and soft and gooey on the inside. There's a solid piece of octopus inside it, and all these vegetables and flavors. This is like a mayonnaise-based tangy sauce on the top, and this is bonito, those fish flakes. And I can't tell you how delicious this was, but I did burn my mouth. It was so hot. And here I am trying to eat it. Okay, now for the takoyaki. Octopus. This is like mukbang. So good. But I totally burned myself eating that. I was like, but man, it was so delicious. And that was Tokyo, which is not necessarily known for takoyaki. Osaka was, but we didn't get to have it in Osaka. And then that night, the last night in Tokyo, we wandered around. This is back in Hibiya Ginza. So right here. And what's cool is here's the rail track. All these restaurants are built under the overpass of the railway. So every inch of space is used, and it's really remarkable. You hear the trains like roaring overhead, and it just adds to the vibe.
Yeah, I know, because it's under an underpass.
Everybody's just eating.
Watch out.
There's a train.
This is crazy.
Nuts,
On the
right?
other track. And here I actually caught the train. Such a cool place, you guys. Check this out. I mean, my daughter took this picture. Just such a vibe. Smoke from the charcoal fires. Late at night, people are bustling around. Really wonderful vibe. And then we just walked around Ginza at night. You can kind of get a sense of what this place is like. Here's a good shot of us just crossing the street. And they're
Go ahead.
so pedestrian friendly.
Our street is
Huge open intersections. They all turn green at once.
House.
I think you're right. Look at all this cross
I
traffic.
think it's pronounced Peko.
We're gonna die. Peko-chan?
Not Pico-chan. It's Pico-chan.
Is this Bob's big boy, but the little boy? Wow. That's not creepy.
So it's funny. I put that video out for my supporters. So Peko-chan is actually a well-known Japanese restaurant apparently, and the little figure is beloved and well-known. And they're like, "Don't make fun of Peko-chan." And I was like, "You're right, Bob's Big Boy." I don't know if Bob's Big Boy predated it or not, but it was pretty interesting. And then that morning, we ended up going to a park across the street from our hotel. Again, the integration of nature, and you find this crazy turtle there. Look at this guy. What is this? It's prehistoric, and it's in a park across from a hotel. Just nuts. And this was that same spot in the morning, kind of cleared out, but still lit up. Uniqlo, a 10-story Uniqlo building. I ended up buying a bunch of clothes. So did my kids. And this is the view from our Tokyo hotel. This was the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo. And here's our breakfast spot, once again with a beautiful view and delicious Japanese breakfast. Just really lovely. And here we are jammed on the subway because we're going to TeamLabs, which is an immersive art installation. It travels around the world, but it's in Tokyo right now, I think. And it was morning commute packed. This was something. This was an experience. You are wall-to-wall humans. And notice barely anybody. There's a couple people wearing masks, but in general, the Japanese are not. Here's what that was like as it cleared off to the monorail aspect of it. It's kind of the Bay Area district. And you can just see the bridges and this aspect of Tokyo, which is right on the ocean. Really gorgeous. And okay, TeamLabs. So you can Google this. So TeamLabs Tokyo Planet we kind of looked into it and we're like, wow, we want to do this because it reminded us of Meow Wolf, the installations in Las Vegas, Santa Fe, and Colorado that Angelo DeLullo had turned us onto. This really amazing immersive art, kind of trippy. This did not disappoint. It was crazy. So they warn you when you go in. They're like, if you're a woman, you should wear these rental shorts we have under your dress because people will be able to look up your dress because there are mirrors everywhere. And be prepared to get wet. You cannot wear your shoes inside, so you have to take your shoes off, no socks, and you just walk barefoot through this thing. And it is such an experience. So I'll try to walk you through some of this because This was a real highlight. Now, I don't think this will ruin it for people because these videos cannot do any of this justice. Like, you will not get even a sense of what this is. You have to be there physically embodying the space. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. But I will tempt you with these videos. So you get in and there's a walkway that's elevated that is full of water and you're climbing.
Dude. That is badass.
What if you slip?
So that was just the entrance. And then you go to this little ante room, you dry off your toes, and then this. So this was a hall of LED lights with mirrors everywhere. This was absolutely crazy. I was totally tripping out. By the way, if you have epilepsy or a seizure disorder, please don't watch this. Yeah, it was crazy. And this doesn't do it justice at all. The lights would modulate in response to people walking through. It felt infinite, you know, like the Tesseract in Interstellar. Like, it was just beautiful. And then you end up walking to the next water feature, which is this. Fish interact with your feet. Yeah. Here's a good description of it. The koi swim on the surface of the water that stretches out into infinity. People can walk into the water. The movement of the koi is influenced by the presence of people in the water and also other koi. So when the fish collide with people, they turn into flowers and scatter. Man, so it's this interactive, and you're walking in this water and it's projected and the music is all immersive and there's a sense of real awe. Just really, really cool. Now, even cooler was a 360-degree dome with mirrors everywhere and projected light show of these flowers. This blew my mind. Like, I did not want to leave this room. the video doesn't even begin to do it justice, but it still brings me back there. I did not want to leave that space. And I'll tell you, the experience I had was, because you're surrounded by all this, everything dissolved into pure one thing, like just the experience, no center at all. And between the music and all the visuals and the sound of people and everything, it just became this just empty, immersive, selfless happening. And my wife had the same experience. My kids were more distractible. They wanted to move to the next thing, but I was like, I'm never leaving this spot. So yeah, and here's an image of it. Can't really capture it. A still image of it. TeamLabs. And then we moved to the orchid room, where you walk through these orchids and they move in response to how you walk. So check this out. These are real orchids. Not yet. What do you say about that? I mean, it was crazy cool. All right, now we're going to wrap up. So Uniqlo, we ended up going that evening, and this was in the entryway. Kind of cool shirt thing. Just everything there is over the top. Oh, speaking of over the top, dude, we talked a lot about Japanese food. The only non-Japanese food we had was this Italian restaurant. We just all felt like Italian. So we stumbled into this place. We had no clue what it was. It was the best Italian food. Like, look at this pizza. I don't remember what was on this, but it was so good. And there were so many Japanese there. Apparently, according to our guide, the Japanese love Italian food, and they do it really well. Local, fresh ingredients. Look at this. This was a margarita pizza. Really flavorful. The crust was delicious. The tomato sauce. And what's interesting is my kids pointed this out too. The basil had a very unique flavor, like it was grown at home or something. And here's their spaghetti. My wife had a pasta that was flavored with spicy cod roe, actually. So it had a Japanese sense with seaweed, spicy cod roe seasoning, and very al dente, chewy, perfectly chewy noodles. I had a Heineken because, hey, it's a Heineken. And you can kind of get a sense of like, who's here? There's local Japanese just at lunch. Like, she was just alone eating, and just a great place, great vibe. And then the last thing we saw that night was this random festival in Tokyo Midtown, Hibiya, near our hotel. Just a really cool surprise to see that happening, right where we were. last night in Tokyo. And then we had the day the next day because we were leaving on a red eye that night. And so we decided to go to Asakusa, which is old Tokyo. This is where there's a lot more traditional architecture, shrines, that sort of thing. And Margaret and I we left the kids behind to go shopping at toy stores and Uniqlo by themselves because guess what? Tokyo is super safe. They had GPS and they were figuring it out. And so we went to Asakusa, and here we are arriving there. You can see the Tokyo Sky Tower behind us. And here is Asakusa, the old part of Tokyo. And you can see this is like a promenade where there are a bunch of tourists kind of going through these stalls. And here's the shrine and the temples. And it was really hot, of course, like every single day here, but really, really cool. Let me show you where we are. So this is the Asakusa area. And this is it relative to the rest of Tokyo. So we took a subway to get there, very, very easy. And here we were in the crowds, and it was a lot of fun. So here we are at the actual shrine, and here's a good example of how busy it was. And a lot of the tourists are actually from China. It's very popular with Chinese tourists right now. Now, after seeing these very sacred shrines, which I did not take photos of because they felt like, this is not appropriate to photograph, I felt really, again, that sense of deep presence here. Like there's something about this spot. You can tell why they've built these things here. And then I saw this. And I'll read a little of it to you. So basically, it points out in the evening of March 9th, 1945, the entire area was burned down by 300 B-29 bombers. And it was a total, massacre. 10,000 burned corpses on the road, and no newspaper would report it, probably because it wasn't good PR for the Japanese. And so they put this up in memory next to the sacred area of the Asakusa Kannon. Kannon, remember, is the Bodhisattva of compassion, and they will not be forgotten. And I saw this and was contrasting it to the experience of walking through Asakusa. And I was just, completely overwhelmed. Like I just couldn't move, and I just stayed right there. And what it was is that felt sense that like, there's just infinite human suffering. Like what the Japanese did to Chinese civilians, then we did to the Japanese. They attacked us. Like you could have all these justifications for why these atrocities happened. But the truth is the human suffering, like where you look around and you go, this entire place was burned to the ground by our army. And they started it and all that. You could say all that. It's all true. It doesn't change the human suffering. And it just was overwhelming. And in the sense, there you have the Bodhisattva of compassion, statues everywhere, shrines everywhere. And you're like, where was it here? And then you're like, oh, it's still here. That love and that connection is still here in this monument. And you can see, here's the Bodhisattva of compassion made in the 1700s. And here's actually, this is interesting. A lot of Westerners see this and they freak out thinking it's a Nazi symbol. It's actually very common in the East, in India and other places. It's a symbol of life. It's backwards of a Nazi symbol. So you see this symbol very often. And this is from the 1700s. And here's a little video of this area. Very deep stillness, even with all the tourists. You can hear those wooden sandals slapping on the floor. Gizo. Yeah. It's a pretty special place, even with all the tourists. And here, by the way, remember that matcha tea powder I was telling you about? Here's how they grind those fresh, fragrant leaves. Once they dry them, they grind them sometimes by machine, sometimes by hand, something like this. That's how they make the matcha powder. You can see the leaves in the top and then the bright green powder coming out the bottom. And this is the Asakusa sort of food district here. It's really hot. You see people fanning themselves. Margaret with the sun umbrella. And our last meal in Japan was in Tokyo. We found a sushi restaurant in Ginza. Let's see if it's got it on here. So if you guys want to go, it's here. Itame Sushi in the Ginza corridor, right next to the rail station. We just stumbled on it and said, this looks good. And it was so good, you guys. Last meal, we were so sad to go. This was just a chef's recommended sushi. And this was a salmon. It's got like this buttery mayonnaise on it. And I don't even know what these are, but they were so good. This was a steak. This was a fancy sea urchin from Hokkaido. Really amazing, creamy. Some people really hate sea urchin. I would argue they just haven't had good sea urchin. This is really good sea urchin. And there we are, chomping away. This was a bowl full of whitefish, salmon roe, an egg. This is ginger, wasabi, over rice. Beyond delicious. Another plate of different meat, fatty tuna, maguro. This is chutoro, actually, kind of fatty cut of tuna. And another, I think, seared salmon. This is a hand roll that they showed us how to fold yourself. You tip this over and then you fold it in on itself and you eat it like a little roll, like a burrito. And it's got tuna in it, uni urchin, salmon roe, ikura. This one had something else in it. This is an egg custard with ikura and different fish in it. It's hot. It's really good. And that, dear friends, is, even though it was like 3 hours of video, that was the cliff notes of our 2-week trip. Like, that was just a smattering. So I guess I could wrap it up by saying this, like, what did this do for us? Like, what does that kind of travel do for you? What does seeing that culture, that kind of spirituality, that kind of food, that social order, that way of living, what does it do? Well, we talk about alt-middle quite a bit on my show, like this idea that all views are true but partial. So if you stand in this clearing where you can see it all, this kind of space, you just get a better understanding of what reality is, which is constantly shifting appearance with nothing really to hang your hat on. So you go to, and you can still have your beliefs and your truths, but you can also see there are other beliefs and other truths. And when you go to Japan, you see, wow, an advanced society, maybe in many ways it's more advanced than ours, with its own downsides, especially the repression, the male-dominated culture. There's a kind of a chauvinism. There's a lot of xenophobia behind the scenes from when I talk to Japanese and Americans who live there. All that stuff is fine. You see the beauty of it. You see the art in the food, the spirituality woven into everything, these hundreds and thousands of years of tradition, and a different way of living, walking, taking public transport, eating fresh fish in the morning for breakfast, finding out that you've gone through a 2-week vacation and you really haven't gained weight because you've been walking so much and the food has been so fresh and there was minimal of processed food, and just understanding that cultural aspect of it, where I actually felt like I could live there forever if I didn't have to work. Because what I've heard is the work culture is really hard. So again, there's a balance somewhere. And by seeing little bits and pieces, we can find the balance for ourselves. And that's why this kind of travel is so useful. And so important. And it's important to what we talk about in healthcare, where we're trying to prevent disease. This kind of exercise, eating right, these fish-based meals. The people of Okinawa, for example, are some of the longest lived in the world. It's one of the blue zones where people live to 100, much more often than other places. And then the idea that when we're talking about awakening and realization, seeing how different cultures have explored this over the millennia. The Christian mystics have done it, the Islamic mystics have done it, and the Buddhists have done it, the Shinto have done it, the Japanese have done it, the Chinese have done it. It's like, what can we learn about the human experience from seeing all of this? So that said, leave a comment. Tell me where I'm right, where I'm wrong, what I mispronounced, what I got wrong. Fill in your experience being in Japan or other countries. Share the video, subscribe, click the little notification bell, all those things that help our algorithm. So that's your way of helping spread videos that you like. And I love you guys. Sayonara. Arigatou gozaimasu. And we are out. Peace.